My entitled father forces me to change the locks on my room after he constantly barges in without asking and without knocking first, as he has literally walked in on me changing and even taking a shower, claiming that because my room is messy, he has every right to barge in there and do whatever he wants. And now I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm a 22-year-old female, and when I was 14 years old, my dad took my room key and lost it. He never apologized and thought it was fine because I never keep my room clean and people should see it. This was the condition I was living with until I moved in with my boyfriend when I was about 20 years old. Said boyfriend and I broke up around January and I had to move back home. I still am quite messy and I'm trying to be better. And since I still have a ton of stuff and I just don't know where to put it, I keep them in bags in my room. It's loaded right now and I've been sleeping in another room on the couch until my new bed arrives. So here's where all the issues really started. My dad, even after numerous attempts of asking him not to, never knocks. He just bursts open the door whenever. He once even did it while I was changing and I was still in my underwear. I told my mom about it and asked her to talk to him since he won't stop. And now he knocks once and just opens the door, even if I say no or ask him to wait. Last week he started going into my room while I was away or taking a shower and letting up the electrical blinds. My room faces the terrace and pretty much everybody can see through the windows and the doors. During spring and summer, a lot of my parents' friends come over all the time, so I chose to keep them down so nobody can see me change or into my room in general. This is nothing new. I've been doing this since I got that room, and my sister did it before me. So now I've been in a week-long battle of telling him to stop, with him saying that as long as my room is messy, the blinds stay up, and me explaining my problem and him just ignoring me. I've told him repeatedly that if he could make some space in the attic, I would be more than happy to get rid of all of the bags, but it's full of his stuff. I am just as annoyed by the messiness as the next guy, and there's no place to put anything. This weekend, my dad went on some vacation with his friends, and I decided to change the locks and lock the door. When he came home today, the first thing he did was go into the back to my room, but it was locked. When he saw me, he immediately screamed at me and had a huge meltdown. He said that I had no right to do that and that I had to change the lock this instant. I calmly told him that since he can't respect my privacy, I just won't be doing that. I also said that if he was willing to leave my room alone and start knocking, I just wouldn't mind changing them back. Right now, I can't afford to move out because of the high rent prices in my town, and all my savings got blown by my ex. If I could, I would be out in a second at this point. But now he went to a voluntary social group that we're both a part of and told them all about it. I'm super mad because it's literally nobody's business, and these are my friends, not his, which just makes this worse in my opinion. And while some of them sided with me, others think that I had no right to change the locks, but they get why I did. He makes me feel like a jerk, and honestly, he called me one more than once. So truly, am I at fault here? Am I the jerk for locking my door? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, the way your dad's acting is super intrusive. Like, this is so inappropriate, it's not even funny. The original poster is 22 years old. Their dad has no business barging into your room, especially when you're changing. And what's the deal with him pulling up the blinds when you're literally like coming out of the shower or changing or doing anything else private? Like, that is really inappropriate, and you have every right to privacy. And honestly, I think the fact that you did change your locks and make a statement that way, in my opinion, shows that no, you're not okay with this, and you're not going to put up with this for another second. Because guess what? You shouldn't have to. You should not have to walk on eggshells and be like, okay, is he going to barge in my room today or not? So in my opinion, if you're paying rent and you're doing everything you need to do to like be a member of the household, then he has no right to barge into your room. Even if you were living there rent-free, he still shouldn't be doing that because that's incredibly intrusive. That is violating and so gross it's not even funny. So truly, I hope you're able to move out sooner than later because your dad sounds like a massive piece of garbage. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband and I always fight when it comes to chores, all because he's been assigned to take care of the household needs, as he literally doesn't have a job right now. And now I feel like I'm losing my mind and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been married to my husband for 2 years now, and we've been together for around 7. Initially, we were both working and both hard workers. I usually came back home late from doing 3,000 things, as I lived alone, so I also managed the rest of the survival stuff, of course. And my husband, who lived with his parents, did regular overtime for no reason, but he liked his job so much. And the both of us specialize in language work. At the start of our marriage, my husband lost his job. It came out of nowhere as he was performing well, and it took a toll on him emotionally, but I reassured him that everything would be fine since he's actually good at what he does. So we came up with this agreement. He would pick up the majority of the housework work while looking for a new job, and I'd focus on work with the exception of things that I prefer to manage myself because I'm more organized and less forgetful. Stuff like keeping track of the bills, scheduling appointments, and doing the laundry, since my clothes need an amount of care I don't want to dump on him. Unfortunately, this didn't work out well from the start. My husband cooks, which is great, but aside from that, he does the bare minimum not to be outright unsanitary. He washes the dishes, tosses the trash, uses the robot to vacuum the floor, and puts his dirty clothing in the dedicated laundry area, but honestly, that's it. He cleans surfaces like the sink or the furniture whenever I beg him to do it, like after a month or two, and constantly leaves stuff on tables or around the house without putting it away. And this creates mess and dust. Initially, I kept asking him to do things, but I stopped recently because I thought that maybe I was micromanaging him. And this is just an example of what happened. He left a bag with a piece of clothing he needed to take to the mender on a chair for 2 months, up to the point that when I asked him if I should take it instead, he didn't even remember where he had put it, even though it's literally in plain view in the living room. I had conversations with him about this, and he insists that he can't focus on anything else while he's stressed out looking for a job. I understand his feelings, so I told him to let me know if he wants to change the division of labor, since I'd rather know up front that I need to do something so I can schedule it in my day directly, rather than having the false reassurance that it'll get done just to find out that it's still there weeks or months later. Well, to this, he tells me not to worry and to leave it to him. This has all come to a head recently because my job has suddenly become more demanding. I was usually able to do some more things around the house, whether he asked me for help or not, but for the past few months, I've barely had any time to exist outside of work. My company's most important client has started multiple lengthy, specialized projects at the same time, with barely meetable deadlines even with a full team. And what's worse is we're 2 people short. My company doesn't want to say no to the client, and I don't want to say no to the company since my job is otherwise great. Plus, I get better paid than 90% of jobs in my industry, and this is the only money that's keeping me and my husband afloat. So I've been literally working for 3 people non-stop. I regularly go to sleep with a headache, wake up with a headache, and I feel back pain. My fingers have started twitching like a pre-industrial revolution factory worker. I've still been managing admin tasks at home, but I honestly haven't had the physical or emotional strength to tidy up the tables and everything else. I don't even have it in me to talk to my friends most days anymore. During this time, whenever it's been the weekend or a bank holiday, we have fought, and somehow I started. I wake up without being too busy to care what's going on, so I look around and I still see items and bags that were there weeks before. So then I get upset, and I ask him why he can't fulfill his end of the bargain as I do. Yesterday, he told me the following: "If I did what you do, I'd be able to do more and faster. You just have to sit and type. It's not the same." And I know this may seem absurd, but I could divorce over this. I've been feeling so aggressively angry all of last night, but while typing this, I realized that if it were anyone else, I would just calmly tell them to leave. Yes, if I turn my brain off and forget adulting, I still love my husband. He knows a lot, he's interesting to talk to, he's very beautiful, and I enjoy spending time together. But as soon as I look around at our life, I feel like an ATM. And this isn't the first time that he's implied that my job is easier, and I'm tired of hearing it when I know that I'm breaking my back much harder than a dude dusting shelves for an hour every month. Now, he claims that he didn't mean it as a comparison, that he just wanted to say that my job is easier in a vacuum. But even then, what does it even mean? And why should it be relevant to him not doing the stuff we agreed he would anyways? So seriously, does this sound like we're both being unreasonable? Is this a miscommunication issue? Should I find another job at the expense of being poor and even worse off? I don't know what to say anymore, and I'm just feeling tired and I want things to work out without constantly fighting over something. What should I do? Okay, the way your husband's acting, in my opinion, is insane. You mean to tell me that he's sitting there and he can't honestly be like, okay, let me clean up and make things really nice for my wife when she comes home? Like, this guy hasn't worked for 2 years. He literally doesn't have a job, and he's trying to sit there and be like, man, if I was doing what you were doing, my life would be so easy. It's so easy what you do. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about right now? This is some crazy talk. It is not that hard to clean up and make sure it's clean, especially when you have no job. The original poster's right. This guy's out of his mind delusional. So no, you're not at fault here. You're definitely not the jerk for trying to figure this out, and hopefully something does get figured out, because you're under a lot of stress and your husband is absolutely not helping. Am I the jerk for not crying about my 15-year-old nephew going to juvenile hall? Because right now my mom's pissed off at me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mom sent me a screenshot this morning of text messages between her and my sister. We live down south now, and they're up on the East Coast. We found out yesterday that my sister had to pick up my 15-year-old nephew from the police station for getting caught at a party with a self-defense projectile item that he definitely is not old enough to have, if you know what I mean. And trust me, I wish I I could say exactly what it is, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. It's important to note that his fingerprints are on it and he has pictures on his phone with it. And as a result, he was put on probation. All he cared about was getting his phone back from the cops, but today's update is that the police took him to juvie. In November of 2023, my nephew's dad passed away, and although him and my sister were not together, they were still best friends since their teens, and it's been hard on everyone. He's been smoking the bud, by the way, with my sister's permission while nobody else approves of this. He's been skipping school, will turn off his location and still not answer the phone, and constantly tried to scam everyone out of money by threatening to be on the streets to get it instead. He also posts pictures on social media with gang-related poses. My dad and my brother should be there for him, even though they aren't the best examples of men, but they've stayed out of jail. There aren't really any other men who are a positive example for him to follow either, like a mentor. Being long distance, there's only so much my mom and I can do but talk to him about his choices and where they're leading him. I feel like I've done everything I can to support them without putting myself out, including financially. My initial reply was this: that's the consequences of his actions. My nephew and my sister are gonna learn one way or another. My mom then came back at me and said that it's my sister's fault. She's the parent and her job is to guide him and protect him, and she did not. She also said that she let him loose on the streets to do whatever. She then said to me, "Must be nice to not be affected by it though." Now in my drafts, I said, I don't know what you want me to say, since I've tried talking to the both of them, because at this point, nobody has been listening. So unfortunately, I'm not surprised it got this far. I'm not gonna stress myself out over something I can't fix. Now, I wanna send it, but I feel like maybe I'm being too cold. So truly, am I being the jerk for not being so emotionally affected? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk. This is so dumb. These people seriously did this to themselves, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I have to disagree with your mom. This absolutely falls on your nephew's shoulders just as much as it falls on your sister's. Yes, your sister should have been watching her kid more, but that 15-year-old nephew literally knew what they were doing, and they got themselves into this mess. I don't care what anybody else says. So no, you're not the jerk for trying to speak reality to the situation, even if your mom is still upset by your reaction. Am I the jerk for telling a guy at my gym that he's a creepy weirdo and that he needs to start changing somewhere else? Because right now, I'm still pretty pissed off and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so at the gym I go to, the men's and women's locker room entrances are side by side. The women's door stays shut, but typically the men's side stays open, simply because the actual changing area is tucked away. There are lockers by the door, but no one uses them because they are far from where people change, and people can easily see you if you use one of those front lockers and the door's open. There is this one guy I see most days that changes and gets fully naked and uses the lockers by the door. He's the only person I've ever seen use those lockers, and obviously the only person I've seen change there. I've never cared too much, and I just thought that he was weird. Well, that is until yesterday, when my girlfriend told me as she was entering the women's locker room, she made eye contact with that guy since the door was open, and he was practically standing in the doorway. And while technically he was in the locker room, he was also fully naked, and he smiled and waved at her. I immediately went to the locker room, and I got pretty pissed off at him, and I told him to stop using those lockers, you creep. We exchanged some words, but it boiled down to him saying that he can change wherever he wants, with me saying, sure, that's right, but why are you doing it in front of the door? He then reported me, and I was told he has been brought to their attention before, but since he is at a locker and in the locker room, they can't really tell him to stop, and that I should just let it be and that there is no reason to be angry. Now, one important detail, this is in a European country that is fine with nudity, and you know what, so am I, but not to the point where he's basically flashing women going into their space. So am I the jerk for calling this guy out? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, you did the right thing by calling him out because this is incredibly creepy. Seriously, why are there lockers right at the front of the entrance? And why does the door not close? This creepy weirdo found a loophole to be a creep, plain and simple. He knows he can stand there nude and naked and not get in any trouble because technically he's in the locker room. And that is disgusting. That seriously is so messed up, and it's honestly so disturbing that the people working there wouldn't try to enforce that. Because your girlfriend didn't consent to seeing this guy naked. Like, that really is messed up that it's being forced upon you as you're walking in to get a workout. So no, you're not the jerk at all. This guy's being a weirdo, and in my opinion, this is something that absolutely needs to be fixed. Would I be the jerk for not attending a wedding where my wife was excluded from the bachelorette party? Because right now I'm still very pissed off about this and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, honestly, my wife and I are almost always excluded from family events or outings in one way or another. My wife is literally the sweetest woman on the earth. She puts up with me and has always been incredibly kind and patient as long as I've known her. We flew into town from out of state for her brother's wedding this Friday, and last night, we had over her soon-to-be sister-in-law, all of her siblings that were able to make it, and her other brother's fiancé. That other fiancé and her two sisters were talking about going to Target tomorrow, so so that they could buy the new sister-in-law a gift for her bachelorette party on Thursday. And when we heard that, we were shocked. We came from out of state, and we assumed that since we hadn't heard anything, that she had already had it before we got there, which would have been fine and understandable. But now it turns out that my wife and his older sister were not invited, but the other two sisters, as well as the other brother's fiancé, are all going. Not a word has been said to my wife about her being invited. When it got brought up, the two sisters acted like they got caught or something like that. They didn't offer any consoling words and changed the subject to my wife's health and how her kidneys are getting worse. So what do you think? Am I overreacting to not going to the wedding at all, tell off my in-laws for being jerks to my wife her whole life, and possibly stop coming to family events? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, the fact that this is definitely your in-laws and not your immediate family, in my opinion, is the only reason why I would be so hesitant in saying something. The last thing you want to do is put your foot in your mouth for people that you are not even related to, because based on the way these people act, I guarantee you they will never let you live that down. And that just doesn't seem fair to you at all. So no, you wouldn't really be the jerk for like telling them off and being like, okay, we're never coming back. But also, it would not benefit you in the slightest. And if I was in your shoes, I would be discussing this with my wife first before I did anything. I love my boyfriend and I don't want to leave him, but he's going to jail soon and I think this is my only way out. And I'm honestly so confused, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years. I'm 32 years old and he is 30. He was my first love, the first man I gave myself to emotionally and physically. When things are good, they are really good. He is sweet, loving, affectionate, and there are moments where it feels like no one could ever love me the way that he does. But there have always been red flags that I've tried to overlook. When we argue, he'll say things like, I'll message another girl or I'm going on a night out, and later take it back saying that he didn't mean it. He also won't let me see his phone, and it's not that I want to snoop on it, but it feels like a trust issue. And when I'm upset or crying, he just goes cold. It's like my pain doesn't affect him at all in those moments. Now, I really love him and I don't want to leave him. This relationship is deeply emotional, and I've been holding on for so long hoping he'd grow or things would shift. But now he's going to jail, and I won't get into the details unless needed, but for the sake of it, he's a street pharmacist, if you know what I mean. And I'm starting to think that maybe this is the only way I'll ever be able to break free. So has anyone else had to leave someone they still loved because you finally realized that love wasn't enough? How do you make peace with walking away when your heart still wants to stay? What should I do? Okay, I need you to understand something because I really mean this. Your boyfriend does not care about you. If he cared about you, he wouldn't be working as a street pharmacist. Also, the fact that he's like, oh, I'm just gonna go message another girl and go for a night out, as well as him going cold anytime you're crying, like this guy doesn't care about you at all. And then to top it all off, the guy's going to jail. And in the comments of this post, the original poster's trying to justify it by being like, oh, but he most likely won't get long, maybe a year or two for what the solicitor says. And it's like, dude, why would you want to stay with someone like that? This is a toxic relationship just from the outside looking in. It doesn't sound like there's any love in this relationship, and it sounds like you're the only one holding on. And I bet you more than anything, he probably is already cheating on you. And I'm sorry to say that, but it kind of looks like he might be. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would be dumping him and moving on with my life. Because trust me, you could do way better than this guy. My fiancé is insistent that we do trust-building exercises where he blindfolds me in public for public vulnerability drills. And I'm honestly so weirded out by this that I don't know if this is normal, and I don't know if I should stay with him any longer. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that I'm starting to feel so humiliated. So I've been with my fiancé for 3 years, and we've been engaged for 6 months. He's always been into building trust and doing weird exercises from books that he reads or podcasts that he listens to. It started small, like falling backwards into each other's arms or taking turns giving up control of the TV for a week. But now it's getting a little bizarre. His newest thing is public vulnerability drills. Basically, he blindfolds me and walks me through public places like Target, the dog park, the farmer's market, etc., while narrating what's going on. I'm supposed to trust his eyes and lose mine, and sometimes he will guide me to smell random fruit or experience vibration by touching speakers in electronic stores. Last weekend, he walked me into a fountain at the mall to test how I would react to unexpected stimuli. And guess what? I got soaked. He then said to me, oh, you passed with a B+, and I'm not making this up. He really grades me. I tried to tell him that I didn't enjoy it and that it makes me feel ridiculous, but he got upset and said I clearly have deep-rooted control issues, and this is how we work through them. He also says I shouldn't undermine the sacred space of trust. So truly, what do I even say to that? Is this some therapy thing that I'm not educated enough to understand? Or is this just really weird? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is literally the weirdest thing I've ever heard, because no, this is not normal behavior. To say that I would dump this person the second he tried to blindfold me in public just so I can go through some public vulnerability drills, like Like seriously, he would be out of my life so fast it's not even funny. Like honestly, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And the fact that he's getting pissed off because you're so resistant to it, in my opinion, kind of proves that he's priming you for like an awful relationship where he is super controlling and demanding of you. Like just look at what he's making you do. He's making you walk around in public in front of other people, blindfolded like in Target or a dog park or even a farmer's market for God's sake. Like this guy's humiliating you for no reason. And if anything, he's probably seeing how far you'll be pushed until you'll literally do whatever he says. So overall, this sounds like an awful relationship. And by awful, I mean something that could be really detrimental to your health. And this is literally manipulation at its finest. Today, it's a fountain that he walks you into, but it makes me question what he's going to make you do in the future, because this behavior is very unusual and you should not have to deal with this in the slightest.
My partner plays way too many video games, constantly prioritizing those over our own children and our home. And after dealing with this for so long, as well as working 12-hour shifts all the time, I'm constantly under stress trying to upkeep the house, as well as taking care of both of our kids, while my partner sits there and plays video games all day. And I'm honestly not sure if I'm the jerk for asking him to play less and try to be more involved in our lives, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so hear me out. When we first got together 6 years ago, he did not play video games. It wasn't until a little over a year into our relationship that he started, which is right when we got internet that wasn't weak. He had mentioned playing when he was younger, but I thought he grew out of it. And at this point, I was pregnant with our first child. When our baby was born, he played video games a lot, and he did a lot of this during his paternity leave. We ended up going to therapy for other reasons, mainly just about all the struggles of being new parents and how that affects a relationship. And that's when he did apologize for how he treated me during my pregnancy, and he honestly did way better after our second child. But now I'm back to feeling like I'm in competition with his PC. I also just wish that he would help out with chores before gaming. Like I enjoy playing Sims 4, but I've barely played because I can't enjoy it if I know there's stuff that needs to be done, let alone while there's two kids that need my attention. I understand wanting to decompress after work, but I don't get that when I come home from working on the weekends after doing a 12-hour shift. And while I'm doing that, he's home watching the kids, basically itching to just play video games. Anytime the baby naps or is just content chilling on the baby mat, he'll sit there and play video games. Not to mention that I don't feel like that gives our oldest son much attention either. I will come home and there will be dishes. There will be laundry and vacuuming that needs to be done, which is hard to do sometimes with the kids. But why not do it once I get home while I play with the kids? And then on weekdays, if I'm behind on cleaning, I'd like for him to entertain the kids once he's home so I can finish up cleaning. But instead, it's straight to playing video games. Also, it's not helping our love life. I've tried telling him that I'd like help around the house before he plays, and I feel like I'm always asking for him to get off so we can spend time together, which he'll usually get snippy over. The past few days, I've asked for help with the kids, and then usually just end up doing everything myself because I literally can't wait. I feel like I've tried explaining in every way possible that I do not like the video games. He'll either say that he just wants to relax or that it's all that he has. And sometimes he has cut down, but then picks it up right back again. So I'm honestly not sure if I'm just being really needy or if I'm being a jerk for wanting more from him, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your partner has his priorities completely mixed up. Like, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I completely agree. If you want to play video games, other things in your life need to get completed first before that can happen. It's honestly the only correct way to go about doing this, and it's the only way that everybody in the house can stay sane. Because what he's doing right now is completely irresponsible. He's allowing things to pile up and basically leaving it on your shoulders, and that, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. Now, I've got to disagree with the original poster here, because I don't think video games are something you just grow out of, and also, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing video games, but it has to be in healthy moderation, because if that's all you do all the time no matter what, then cleaning the house or getting work done is never gonna happen, and that literally just cannot happen. Like, I really believe there has to be a balance in all of this, and I'm a firm believer that if you take the time, you really can find the balance necessary for all aspects of your life. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your partner is being very selfish right now, and I think you have every right to be upset with the way he's acting.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
An entitled Karen is constantly bumping into people, as well as cutting people off in the pool while she's swimming. And I eventually found myself cut off by this lady, where she claimed that I cut her off and that she was going to complain about me and get me banned from the pool. Here's here's what happened. So there's this Karen that gets in other people's way at the public swimming baths, but she thinks that everyone else is in the wrong. Occasionally when lane swimming, someone will accidentally knock someone else, but it is very rare. It happens and it isn't a problem. However, there will sometimes be that one person who always bangs into others, and it's because they're unaware of other swimmers and that their swimming etiquette is completely incorrect. Lane swimming direction and speed is on a board at the end of the pool. There are several lanes to pick from, namely the slow, medium, and fast lane, which have rope markers held up with floats to identify each. The format is either swim clockwise or counterclockwise, and the information is on boards at the end of the pool. So if swimming clockwise, a swimmer will keep to the left, and someone overtaking can do so in the middle. Well, the entitled Karen of this story is slow, and as she approaches the end but a long way from the end, she moves into the middle. She is completely unaware of anyone who may be overtaking her, and frequently cuts up other swimmers who have to veer away from her, or sometimes she'll knock into them. If I am doing the crawl, I do it in the middle lane, and if I'm doing the breaststroke, I do it in the slow lane, so not to hold up other swimmers. Well, I was overtaking her when I was doing my breaststroke in the slow lane, and that's right when she knocked into me. Now, have you ever heard the expression that it's not what someone says, but it's the way they said it? Well, this Karen just went into full angry mode. She looks at me and says, "You knocked into me." But I look at her and I say, "No, you knocked into me." The Karen then responds by saying that I splashed her and that I shouldn't be in this lane. But even though I tried to explain to her that you need to keep left, she interrupted me and said that I shouldn't be in this lane and she was going to make a complaint. I said to her that she needs to be more aware of other people, but she just said to me, "You were going too fast and I'm still going to complain about you." I then responded by saying that you're not swimming in a straight line and that you literally swam right into me. But she just kept repeating that she was going to file a complaint against me. So, realizing that this conversation was literally going nowhere, I said to her, "You need to learn how to swim in a straight line, then you won't keep knocking into people." I then swam off at that stage, leaving her looking perplexed. I mean, did she think the pool attendants would do something? Because they definitely wouldn't. She thinks she's the swimming pool police, but she is honestly very mistaken. And my only regret is that I didn't call her a Karen at the time. Yeah, that's such a weird way to act at the pool. Like seriously, all you gotta do is share the lanes. It really isn't that hard, especially if you're paying attention even just a little bit. It's also ironic to me that she's repeating over and over again that she's gonna complain about this guy, but like seriously, he didn't do anything wrong. It sounds like this entitled Karen is the person who does this all the time, and honestly, that must be so annoying to deal with, and hopefully that gets corrected sooner than later. Today, I found out that my wife has been cheating on me with a coworker from work, and I'm now honestly devastated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife and I met through online dating about a decade ago, and we hit it off pretty quickly. We've been married for 8 years now, and we own a house together and have 2 young children less than 6 years old. Neither of us had really had a successful long-term relationship prior to meeting each other. We are a team and we constantly have each other's backs. We have worked through some stuff in the past, mainly financial stuff that we didn't see eye to eye on, but we communicate well and we work through things as a team. We are a single unit. We have not had any insurmountable hurdles until seemingly now. Now, she is straight and always maintains that she is straight, but she definitely has the sort of style that gives off the vibes that she might be into women. Now, my wife has issues with where to draw the lines on joking about things, and in her workplace, the level of joking, especially stuff intimate in nature, if you know what I mean, crosses all kinds of lines that wouldn't come near to being crossed at my workplace. I would get fired for the sort of things that she and her coworker joke about on a daily basis, but it comes with their work environment. Recently, she made a new friend at work within the last couple of weeks. They're roughly the same age, and my wife could not stop talking about her. Let's call her Rachel. Rachel is not her real name. Rachel is so funny. She has a kid of her own in our kids' class, and she sends funny messages all the time. Rachel is roughly the same age as my wife and I, to my knowledge, and is married to a woman, and they have at least one kid. Well, last night, I was plugging in the iPad to charge, and the iPad is linked to my wife's phone, and so messages on her phone appear on the iPad as well. She was working a late shift, so I was home alone with the kids. I was plugging it in, and there was a message notification on the screen. It was a phone number with no name, and the messages were absolutely gushing about my wife's personality and her looks, and all this other stuff. Now, normally, I don't dig into her messages. I see the jokes that come through sometimes, and you can obviously tell that they're jokes. But this one just didn't sit well with me. It seemed too legitimately heartfelt, and so I decided to open up the message. And what I gathered over the next 10 to 15 minutes is that this was Rachel texting her, and that something, even though I'm not sure what that that something is, had happened earlier in the day between the two of them. It was physical in nature, and my wife put up some kind of boundary. But then all of the messages after that were the two of them flirting back and forth, and my wife asking if they moved the boundary, with Rachel responding that they could discuss setting a new boundary. My wife also expressed that she wishes she had met Rachel before me, or at least before we had kids. Well, when I saw that, I took pictures of all the messages with my phone. I wasn't sure how to screenshot them and send them to myself from the iPad without her realizing. And then after that, I started texting her and asking her how her day was, as well as what she was up to and all this other normal stuff. And it is slowly revealed that she had spent the morning with Rachel, that Rachel was at our house in the morning, and she was there for the entire morning. She even said that they chatted about issues at work and issues with Rachel's marriage. And here's the thing, my wife never does this. She never has people over the house like this, and the odd time that she does, I generally hear about it. She tells me because she is excited that she had an old friend over or something like that. And so I danced around it a bit for a few more text messages, and then I said, screw it. I know something happened, and I'm going to put her on the spot. I then sent her the following text message. I'm about to start asking some very real questions, and I need you to have some very good answers. I then indicated that I had charged the iPad for her when she got home. Well, the iPad lights up with my message, and then I can see that she read it. It then lights up again, but this time with a message sent to Rachel. She sent a screenshot of my message to her, and she says to Rachel that we're done. Rachel asks what is going on, and my wife says that I know, because I can see the whole conversation on the iPad. And then she texts me back asking if she can call me in a few minutes when she can find a quiet spot at work. But I told her not to call me, and I made arrangements for her to sleep in the basement. I'm honestly so numb right now. I did not sleep last night, and I had a million thoughts floating through my head. This morning I sat with her in the early hours of the morning and had a discussion that I think we need to address this through a marriage counselor who knows the best way on how to attack this. I then asked her why she has no answer, and she says that she can't explain. She says there is nothing wrong with me, it is nothing that I did, that she is happy in life and doesn't know why she did it. She says all they did was kiss and nothing more, but I told her that I know from her messages that she was pushing for more. I poured my heart out to her, and all I got back were some mumbled apologies, as well as her saying, I know you're hurting. She doesn't know what to say, and she seems numb as well. She said she's embarrassed, but I told her that she's only embarrassed and sorry because she got caught, because obviously she wasn't thinking about me or the kids. I left this morning for work, telling her that I'm willing to patiently work through this with a marriage counselor, but that this was going to take some time, that this isn't some situation where you went to a work party, got drunk, and made a mistake or anything like that. This was a Thursday afternoon. You were stone cold sober, and you invited her to the house immediately after dropping the kids off at school. And then you flirted with her via text the rest of the day, and while at work together, and further getting handsy at work. All the while, you're sending me text messages asking about my day, while also just checking in on our life. And you know what? I can tell by the timestamps on the text messages that she was flirting with Rachel right before and after a phone call she had with our kids. I am so mad, and I'm trying to keep a level head and not do anything without rational thought put in first. And that's because I really do believe in trying to fix this. I have already made it clear that I want to go through marriage counseling, and I've also told her that she needs to smarten up at work and stop kidding around and act like a professional regardless of what others do. She has indicated that she has cut contact with Rachel and will not speak to her outside of a professional capacity when she has to at work. I have photos of the messages they sent to one another, and my wife does not know that I have them, only that I could see what was on the iPad. And in the meantime, I've told her to get comfy in the basement. I don't know if there's anything else I could do right now. I mean, is this a lost cause? Should I just go scorched earth? I mean, I really don't want to do that to my kids. Should I get her checked for a tumor? I so want to believe that she has a tumor that has tweaked her brain. I mean, this is just so out of left field. It came out of absolutely nowhere, and it is nothing like her. And she seems to have no real idea as to why it happened, other than her saying that she just got curious. I mean, should I try to get in touch with Rachel's wife and let her know? Or see if my wife has the guts to do it herself? Or should I just leave it well enough alone? She's got another late night shift today, and I'm at work right now, so we probably won't cross paths again until tomorrow morning. We have a weekend of kids' birthday parties to attend, which I don't know how we'll get through without people realizing there is something terribly wrong between us, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, how tragic of a situation. Like seriously, this really sucks, and I'm so sorry to the original poster. It's very obvious that your wife clearly thought she was going to get away with this, and that really is such a tragic thing, especially especially considering you guys have kids together. And the original poster got it right. It's like she didn't even think about them in the slightest. And her excuse for allowing this to happen is so wrong. For her to be like, oh, sorry, I got curious, didn't mean to hurt you. That is so toxic, it's not even funny. And I personally don't believe her for a second when she's like, oh, all we did was kiss. Like, I really think that's probably a lie, and it's most likely a cop-out just to minimize any consequences. And if you do decide to go scorched earth and decide to separate from her entirely, in my opinion, I really wouldn't feel guilty about any damage that does to the kids. Because at the end of the day, any problems that arise from that are literally your wife's fault. She did this to your marriage and your family, and there's really no good excuse for this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to share my inheritance with my siblings, as they are now demanding that I give some of that over to them, despite the fact that they neglected our parents towards the end of their lives? And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently inherited a significant amount of money from our parents after they passed away. My siblings, both older than me, have been pressuring me to share the inheritance equally between us. However, I've been hesitant because I'm the one who took care of our parents during their final years, and I'm also the one who sacrificed a lot of time and opportunities for my own career and personal life just to take care of them. Growing up, my siblings were always busy with their own lives. They moved away for college, pursued successful careers, and rarely visited home. Meanwhile, I chose to stay close to our parents, especially when their health started declining. I became their primary caregiver, managing their medical appointments, their daily needs, and providing emotional support. During this time, my siblings would occasionally check in, but they didn't contribute much to our parents' care. They never took on the responsibility of caregiving or even offered substantial financial support. Despite this, they still expected an equal share of the inheritance when our parents passed away. Now that I've received the inheritance, my siblings are demanding their share. They argue that it's only fair since we're all family. However, I strongly believe that I deserve a larger portion because of the sacrifices I made for our parents. I feel resentful that they only started showing interest in our parents' affairs when they realized there was money involved. I've explained my stance to my siblings, but they're accusing me of being selfish and greedy. They argue that our parents would have wanted us to share equally, regardless of who did what during their final years. However, I can't shake off the feeling that they're trying to take advantage of me and the situation. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, this might be a controversial take, but I don't think you're the jerk at all. If your parents really wanted your siblings to have any share of what they're gonna leave behind, then they literally would have put that in their wills. They would have stated very specifically who gets what, and they would have made that information very clear and present. So the fact that they did not do that and instead gave you everything is all you really need to know about the matter. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think your siblings are being very selfish, especially considering how they didn't help their parents out towards the end of their life. My mom is threatening to ruin my entire life if I ever move out while I'm in college, and I now feel incredibly stuck and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a freshman in college. I've been wanting to move out since I was 13 years old, given the fact that my mom is emotionally and physically awful towards me and always has been. The college I'm attending requires all freshmen to live on campus, and my mom made me opt out of it, requiring me to sign a waiver with my college because she said to me that if I moved out, she wouldn't provide her tax information for my financial aid. A few months have passed since that first incident, and today my younger sister and I got into an argument, and I said out of frustration that I would be moving out in June because I simply couldn't take this anymore. All of the belittling, all of the arguments over menial things, I was just so sick of it. Well, my mother immediately charged at me and began screaming at me, saying that if I move out, she will cancel my phone line, remove me from her health insurance, remove me from car insurance, take away my car despite it not being under her name, withhold all tax information from me, and make sure that my grandpa has to choose between me or her. For context, my grandfather is my best friend. He has my back on everything, and if I came to him in a time of need, he would help me no matter what. My mother is probably the only person who has the power to instill fear into my grandpa, as well as sway him in her favor as he is afraid of losing his daughter. My mom stated that I am not allowed to move out despite me being 18 years old all the way until I graduate college, and if I attempt to do so, everything is going to be taken away from me, even my own family members. It is a normal life milestone for a young adult to move out out into a dorm, but she sees this as a threat and a way for me to rebel against her and become out of her control. So I honestly feel very stuck and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, the way your mom is talking to you and the way she's treating you is completely inappropriate. Like, this is beyond her just being nasty or mean. This is really manipulative behavior. She's basically giving you an ultimatum. You have to live with her until you graduate from college, or else she's gonna ruin your life, basically. And honestly, that is like insane to me. Like, I can't imagine someone acting like this and really expecting me to want to go along with it. It also seems like she's really trying to cover all her bases and really make it so that you stick around out of fear instead of logic. Because in my opinion, you have it 100% correct. You are 18 years old, and if you wanted to move out, you really could if you wanted to. I almost wonder if maybe there's some kind of like counselor you can talk to at your school, or someone who could help you in this situation that can kind of give you guidance or some kind of direction on what to do. Because regardless of what you do choose to do, I think the biggest thing you need to realize is that your mom is incredibly toxic. And I know if I was in your shoes, there is no way I would ever want to live with her. My mother-in-law walks into my house anytime she wants, barging right in through our garage since she has a code to our garage door, and just letting herself into our house whenever she wants. And after dealing with this for so long, I finally hit my breaking point and told my husband that I don't want her coming into our house whenever she wants. Because right now I am super annoyed by this behavior, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I want to preface this by saying that I have a great relationship with my mother-in-law as well as my husband. I'm a non-confrontational person, and I tend to let a lot of stuff slide, but I put my foot down on this and I need to know if I was being a jerk. So my husband immigrated here as a young boy with his parents. His only real family that he knows is his parents and sibling. I was born into a large extended family who have always been close, but it's not in our nature to just stroll into another person's house. When we see each other, it's because we made plans to do so, and that's honestly what I'm used to. After my second child was born, my mother-in-law started taking some liberties after we gave her our garage code while she was watching our older child while I was giving birth. It started with me ignoring a knock at the door during my first hours home after a 5-day hospital stay after giving birth, because I was trying to concentrate on breastfeeding and I wasn't expecting anybody to come by our house. Well, then I hear my garage door open and my mother-in-law comes in and just sits on the couch and starts visiting. Now, I didn't like that, so I expressed that to my husband and he seemed to get it. Then she did the same thing. She came over unannounced and let herself in while I was having a tender moment with my older child decorating the Christmas tree. She sat down and started bossing them around about where to put ornaments, and I got so frustrated, I just put an end to the decorating and made it so awkward that she finally left. Well, after this, my husband was mad that I was mad. He said to me, "I'm just glad she at least wants to see me." Now, for reference, I have a strained relationship with my mom, so this honestly was a low blow in my opinion. Now, I love my mother-in-law and I'm very close with her, but I really feel like this is just crossing a line, and I am not okay with it. I think my husband should respectfully have my back. I know a lot of cultures are used to multi-generational living or even just close family, where this type of thing is just normal and it's not seen as unusual. And maybe for some it is normal, but it makes me so uncomfortable and I hate it. I don't want it to cause a strain or disrespect for my mother-in-law or my husband, or discount their unique relationship in being such a tight family due to the rest of their kin being in another country. And I also don't want to be a jerk. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you have every right to expect some kind of like notice before someone barges into your house. Like, you guys have basically given her a key to your house and she now just comes and goes as she pleases. And that, in my opinion, is not the sign of a good guest. She is not being respectful of your space or your time, and if anything, she is literally just being a nuisance. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Like, I love my family, but if they barged into my house anytime they wanted, or if they came into my house all because I wasn't answering the door, that would seriously be such a breach of trust and privacy, it's just not even funny. And I totally understand where the original poster is coming from, where they basically make the conclusion that this really is some kind of cultural difference between her and her husband. But even with that in mind, I don't think it would be unreasonable for your husband to see where you're coming from with this and tell his mom not to show up unannounced whenever she wants. Like, she really does need to come through the front door just like everybody else. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think what you're asking of your husband and your mother-in-law is completely reasonable, and I do think this is something they absolutely could accommodate. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also,
So go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
Am I the jerk for being so done with the family drama going on in my extended family? Because right now, my brother and sister-in-law are being super annoying, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So my husband has multiple siblings between the ages of 8 and 27. The only one that matters here is the oldest brother, who's 27, and his wife, who's 24. They have always seemed a little more concerned with themselves and getting what they want. But what has happened recently has been quite the surprise. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are very genuine and caring people to a fault. Also, for context, I am 16 weeks pregnant and the only other person that is married into the family. 2 months ago, my father-in-law proposed an idea where we work together on a project and use the funds we make to pay for a family cruise, and everyone happily agreed to work. When we started planning, my brother-in-law and his wife were trying their hardest to not go on a cruise. I'm honestly not sure why, as their reasonings were inconsistent and don't make any sense to me, my husband, or his parents. So then, without being asked, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law proposed 4 other ideas of places to go in an elaborate PowerPoint with highlights of activities in the areas. But the problem is that I couldn't participate in 90% of the activities while pregnant. They included things like roller coasters, long hikes, and surfboarding, not to mention the proposed plan to go skiing and ice skating, which I could not participate in at all. They acknowledged that I wouldn't be able to do almost anything on the other trips in a text, but they literally did not care. After all of that, my father-in-law said he still chose the cruise for many reasons, including that he knew my mother-in-law would be guilted and made to babysit my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's 2 younger kids while they went and had fun on their own. More recently, my brother and sister-in-law have said they point blank will not go on a cruise, even though they had been begrudgingly planning on it after their ideas were turned down. They also have threatened my father-in-law to just take their portion of the money from our work and go on their own vacation. When my father-in-law said they could go ahead and do that, my brother-in-law backtracked and said he didn't want to actually do that now. But he also reiterated that he did not want to and was not going on the cruise. So now my mother-in-law and father-in-law are trying to bend over backward to accommodate their selfishness and are trying to plan a second vacation that my father-in-law would fully fund. The second vacation would be at a resort with a lake because my sister-in-law likes lakes, and my husband and I would not be going since I would be 32 weeks pregnant by then. I'm incredibly frustrated by all of this. I'm especially frustrated by my brother and sister-in-law being so selfish and so entitled, especially when they feel the need to bully my mother and father-in-law into doing something that they really don't want to do. My husband understands my frustration, but is trying to be more impartial and help his parents work things out. I really don't think I'm in the wrong here for feeling infuriated, but all of my in-laws' reactions are causing me to question myself. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about this brother and sister-in-law, to be completely honest with you. They clearly just want to cause problems, and honestly, that is not your concern in the slightest. And it almost seemed like they were picking out vacation ideas that you intentionally couldn't participate in. Because they know you're pregnant, but they still tried to pick these vacation activities, knowing that you could not participate in them. So honestly, I would not worry about them in the slightest, and I think the biggest silver lining here is that they are not going to be going on this cruise. So that is at least something that you get to look forward to. Am I the jerk for banning my girlfriend from using glass cups in my house, as she breaks them way too often, and I find myself stepping in broken glass all the time? Because right now she is very angry at me, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my girlfriend has a problem with glass. She is clumsy and always has been, and has broken many other things before now. And I would not mind this, but she is also awful at cleaning the shards up. This past week alone, she has dropped 3 glasses, 1 jar, 2 bowls, and a coffee cup. And she busted a plate by leaving it on the stovetop while the oven was preheating. And this is despite the fact of being warned many times before that items should not be on the burners when the oven is heating because the conduction carries through. She has been stressed out at work, so I kind of attribute a lot of it to that. I can't even really say which glass objects have injured me specifically each time. It's just that I've been limping for a week because I stepped on a big shard of glass that went into my foot, and some other smaller ones that went into my foot as well. Plus, some of them went in my palms because I missed them as I kneeled down to pull the ones that were in my foot. I have stepped on or pressed my hand into glass 4 times this week. Tonight when she asked for a soda, I poured it into a plastic cup instead of a glass one like she prefers, and said that she couldn't use my glasses. And when I said that, she threw a fit. I literally just can't phrase it any differently. She progressively got angrier at me for bringing up the other broken glasses because they were just accidents, and that I should not punish her, especially because I started mentioning others before this week, but even so, I am sick of going through gauze and tape. She insists that I'm making mountains out of molehills, and I should clean it up myself to my specifications because she does her best. So I really need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk, and I don't blame you for not letting your girlfriend use any glass cups in your house. If she's seriously saying, oh my gosh, I can't help that I'm breaking glasses, you should clean it up yourself if it's not good enough. And it's like, what are you talking about? You're breaking glass and leaving it on the floor. No one should be expected to walk through glass just because you want to be lazy. Like, that is seriously insane. There's no good excuse for that. So no, of course the original poster is not a jerk. The girlfriend in this scenario is being very selfish and entitled, and I don't blame you for banning her from using glass cups. My husband is a doctor and refused to let me go to the hospital when I was in intense pain, but I'm thankfully glad that we did go to the hospital because I eventually found out that my appendix had ruptured, and I'm now sitting here confused, wondering why my husband was so against me going to the ER. Here's what happened. So me and my husband have been married for 2 years, and he's always been a very good husband, and we've had a great marriage. About 3 weeks ago, I've been having off and on pain in my stomach. I thought it was cramps, and my husband said I'd be fine. I wasn't really worried until it started to get worse over the course of that week, all the way up until it was excruciating. My husband acted more annoyed than concerned. Even when my temperature was 103, he kept telling me to take some pain medications and take a shower. And when I said that I think I needed to go to the ER, he told me no, that wasn't necessary. Even when I cried in pain, he didn't comfort me at all. He also genuinely rolled his eyes at one point. And as a side note, I'm not dramatic about pain at all. I'm rarely sick, so this really wasn't a normal thing. Well, in the middle of the night, the pain suddenly stopped hurting, and that was concerning to him. In the morning, he tossed a bottle of water at me and told me that I looked better. I told him it stopped hurting. He then took me to the emergency room, and I guess that's what happens when your appendix ruptures. Anyway, so I had surgery and a bad infection. I was in the hospital for like a week and a half, I think, and while I was there, my husband was very kind and attentive. But ever since I've been home, he's been back to insinuating that I'm being dramatic. I'm genuinely so confused as to why he's acting like this. When I ask him about it, he insists that he's not acting that way, though he very clearly is. He genuinely asked me yesterday if I was going to cook dinner, and I'm like, why is he like this? He's never been this type of person before. I mean, is it because he's a doctor? I honestly don't know, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your husband sucks like a lot. Why on earth would he be like, no, you're not gonna go to the hospital, but only once you show like this very crucial symptom is he like, oh wait, no, let's seriously go to the hospital. Like, that's really disturbing behavior, and I would be super upset if I was in your shoes. This guy almost cost you your life, and this is all because what? He didn't want you to go to the emergency room? I'm a firm believer that if you really are in that kind of pain and you've got this weird temperature and pain going on in your body, then absolutely go to the emergency room and get this figured out. So yes, your husband is a massive jerk for not letting you go, because that seriously could have been fatal. My son is furious with me, as he is blaming me for his girlfriend breaking up with him after I had a talk with her and told her to consider her options moving forward, which eventually led to her breaking up with my son. Because right now, my son is incredibly angry, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my son has been in a relationship with his girlfriend for about 3 years now. I love my son, and I hate to say this, but he's not turned out to be a good person. He has very little work ethic, has no desire to get a job or to go to college, and spends most of his time gaming or partying. His girlfriend, on the other hand, is the polar opposite. She's very studious, has aspirations to be a doctor, and is a very good swimmer, and is currently away at college. When my son and his girlfriend first got together in high school, they were an excellent match. We loved having her over, and my son definitely took more care of himself. Since then, though, he has rapidly deteriorated. I know my son still loves his girlfriend, but he never gives her the attention that she deserves. And with her clear potential, I just feel that she deserves better. When she came to visit a few days ago, she was visibly upset. When my son went to the store, I asked her if she was okay, and she told me that she didn't know what to do and wondered why my son had such little ambition and was so lazy. Well, I told her that I didn't see it changing anytime soon, and that's honestly been my view, given that it's been ongoing for almost 2 years. When she asked what I would do in her situation, I told her to put herself first and what she wanted. She thanked me and said that she'd think things over. Well, earlier today, my son comes downstairs in a rage, telling me that his girlfriend had broken up with him via text message. I asked him what she said, and apparently the message referred to discussions she had with me and how they made her rethink the whole relationship. My son was livid that I had gotten involved and said that I overstepped my boundaries. But I told him that I didn't advise her to leave him. I just said that she had to make her own choices and decide what was best for her. My son is now not talking to me, and my husband is annoyed, believing that my son not having his girlfriend will only make his rut last even longer. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think you're 100% right. You didn't tell her to end the relationship. You just told her to think about her choices and figure out what she wants to do. Because here's the thing, if she wanted this relationship to work, she would have stuck around with your son and tried to make things work for the better. But she clearly saw that this was a losing fight, so she decided to cut her losses and find somebody else. And you know what? In my opinion, your son has no one else to blame except for himself. If he was actually making strides in his life and his future career, then she might have stuck around and given him a chance. But instead, he's been super lazy and not done anything to improve his life, choosing to play video games and partying instead of going to college or getting a job. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your son is reaping exactly what he sowed, and in my opinion, I don't blame the girlfriend for breaking up with him in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to put my name down on a lease agreement that my mother is trying to push on me? Because after her history of having bad debt, I'm suspicious that she will ever make any kind of payments on the house she is trying to rent. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my mother has always been the extremely controlling type, so much so that my very first whiff of alcohol was at 19, and most of my friends started at 16. And I've also never had a sleepover with any of my female friends, nor any of my family members either. Now, without dabbling into too much details, and I don't want to be too biased on this, my mom has always had control over my life. After having had to drop out of university due to financial constraints, which had to do with me being kicked out because the free payer stopped paying, I decided to take a couple of customer service jobs. They were extremely low paying, they had terrible hours, and I was easily pulling a 15-hour shift at least twice a week. Well, recently I got a new job. The pay is good, the work is great, but it is very consuming. And trust me, you earn every cent that you make. Since getting this new job, I have made it my mission to get myself everything I've been begging for the last few years. I needed a new phone because my iPhone 7 was absolutely shattered, so I took out a finance plan for it. I also had to get a new laptop for work, so I financed that as well. And earlier this week, I picked up my new car. I was the only one of my siblings who was not bought a first car from my parents. Obviously, the amount of changes happening in my life made it seem as though I had a salary jackpot, but I do not. Instead, I'm just very good at saving. Well, my mother has obviously seen this. I do still live with her in a rental house, along with my unemployed dad, my unemployed brother, and his 2 kids. Our lease is up at the end of February, and so my parents have been viewing houses. My mother is blacklisted with the credit bureau right now, and as a side note, she was able to pay all of her debts in 2020 after selling my childhood home. So all of her debt right now is very new. She has skipped her car payments, skipped her loan payments, and pretty much anything else. And my mother has a very good job and definitely can afford these things. But her lifestyle is entirely too inflated. She spends way too much money on entertainment and entertaining. Due to the blacklisting, the landlords of the properties that she wants are not open to offering her a rental. Once again, it's because of the inflated lifestyle, and she only wants the best of the best looking houses. She has asked me to put my name and info down on her lease, claiming that she will cover the payments. When I asked what it would do to my credit score, she snapped at me and started shouting about why I don't need a good credit score because I've already got the things I need on my credit. Now, obviously, my mom is a terrible payer. That would reflect on my credit score, and at 21, I'm preparing myself to move out into my own apartment in the near future. My mother is not seeing it this way and has decided to give me the cold shoulder. If I greet her at any point during the day, she looks at me very blankly and continues what she was doing wordlessly. So honestly, am I the jerk for not putting my name down on the lease? What should I do? Yeah, I'm really gonna keep it 100% and say that your mom does not sound like a good person at all. It really seems like your mom is trying to use you in some kind of way. She's trying to put your name down on the lease so she won't get in trouble for getting in more debt. Basically using your good name and credit as a smokescreen so that she can get this expensive house and then not make payments on on it. And you know what? I can guarantee you if you do put your name on that lease, you will 100% be responsible for all of the payments because your mom 100% would ruin your life if given the chance. So no, of course you're not the jerk for not wanting to put your name on the lease. Your mom is clearly irresponsible, and I would not trust her for a second when she says she's going to cover the payments. It's also really funny to me that she snapped at you and almost like freaked out when you said, wait a second, what's that going to do to me? Because that's basically her showing her hand that she is not going to pay on time, that she's using you so she can get a better house, and that she's going to throw you completely under the bus as a result of her not making her payments. You can also see the blatant manipulation tactics where she's giving you the cold shoulder all because you don't want to do this. And honestly, it is not your fault that she has terrible credit. She's clearly trying to maintain a lifestyle that she cannot support. And so she's now turning to you to try and maintain that in some kind of way. And that's really not fair of you because you said it yourself. You don't make a ton of money, you're just good at saving your money. Which in my opinion, especially considering who you live with, that's probably a good idea. So no, of course you're not the jerk for not putting your name on that lease. And in my opinion, it would serve you better to move out of there and find your own place to live. Because your mom is very clearly trying to use you, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. My entitled dad and his stepwife are demanding that I give up some of my inheritance of almost $1 million, as they claim it would be selfish of me to keep it all for myself. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 17-year-old male, and I will be coming into a large amount of money when I turn 18. This is money that my mom, who died when I was 7, and my maternal grandparents accumulated for me since I was born. I won't say the exact amount, but it's between $500,000 and $1 million. The reason it's that much is my grandparents ran a successful business for many years, and they sold it 18 months ago, and all money from that sale went to me. They literally kept none of it. My grandparents have control over all of it currently. Before my mom passed away, she left them in charge of the account where she was saving. She was married to my dad at the time, but had wanted to secure my future in case anything happened, like my dad getting married again and having some additional kids. She did not want to run the risk that once she was gone, her money could be used for someone who wasn't her kid. My dad knew some money had been saved for me by mom, but was never aware of how much or how little it was. He also had no idea my grandparents continued saving for me. Well, my grandparents told me about the money over a year ago. They wanted me to prepare for my future and to know that I would have so many options because of the money available to me. They also mentioned that this would never bring back my mom, but it could alleviate the burden of becoming an adult. So with that bit of context out of the way, here's where the real problem comes into play. My dad did end up getting remarried, and he has a stepdaughter and a son with his current wife. The stepdaughter's 16 and the son is 5 years old. They are not wealthy, and my dad's wife has prepared her daughter to try and work hard for scholarships, as well as financial aid to get into college, because she wants to study to become a lawyer. My dad had similar conversations with me, and had sat me down a few times since I learned of the money's existence to figure out what our plans would be. Eventually, I told him it wasn't going to be a big concern, and I told him about the money. He was absolutely blown away when I said that. And then he turned around and told his wife, and they were both completely stunned. They then got together and told me that I could be gracious and split the money when I get it between the three of us and give the other two a chance to have a decent helping hand with college. I told them I would not be sharing it because it was created by my family, not theirs. My dad's wife argued that it would be incredibly selfish to take such a large amount of money and blow it all on myself when I have two siblings who would also benefit in a major way from it. My dad told me that even giving some of it to them, not even a full split, but some of the money, even just some that I had left over, would be really amazing and it would help my family out a lot. But I still told him that I wasn't going to do that. Well, as a result, they are so not happy with me. They told me that being selfish with this is not a good way to be. My dad is also angry that he continued saving for me and dividing things equally between the three of us when there is so much I will have access to in just a few months. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, before I even get into this, let this be a very valuable lesson to anybody listening. If you win the lottery or you're about to get a lot of money from some kind of like inheritance or something like that, your best course of action, in my opinion, is to just keep your mouth shut and not tell anybody. You literally gain nothing by spilling the beans, and it will literally only cause problems in your life. And this story is a fantastic example about that. If the original poster just kept their mouth shut and chose not to discuss that aspect of their life, they could probably still live a normal life and get away with it in some kind of way. money. So, for the record, of course you're not the jerk, and these people trying to guilt trip you into giving away your money is insane to me. They're only calling you selfish because you're getting the money, not because you already knew you were going to use it for yourself. Like, that idea is completely misguided, and I can see these people hounding you about this pretty much for the rest of your life. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for keeping this money for yourself, and the fact that your dad and his wife are trying to guilt trip you into handing over some of that money, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
An entitled neighbor tries to buy property off my mom for $1, and when my mom refuses to do so, they try to make her life a living nightmare, and I've honestly never been more blown away by someone's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so this story is basically a combo of entitlement and general terribleness. My 74-year-old mom's neighbor, a mid-60s male, decided he needed a bigger driveway so it could fit 4 cars, including the ones belonging to his 2 children who no longer live there. My mom somewhat reluctantly agreed under the condition that she pay for everything built over the property line and maintain the right to remove or build on top of the unreasonably large driveway. Well, a few years went by and the neighbor wanted to sell the house and asked my mom to sell him the part of the property he built on for $1. And trust me, when she said no, everything became a living nightmare. He then started showing up at her house with a video camera, screaming at her for being a cruel woman who didn't want him to see his kids. But here's the thing, there is a permit street parking, and all residents on the block have 2 parking passes, and you can request up to 6 temporary guest parking passes. Eventually, she decided to have a surveyor come to determine the property line and then build a fence to keep him and his family away from her. When workers started pulling up the part of the driveway on her side of the property line, it got even more aggressive and ridiculous. His wife even showed up crying over how they can't live without the extra driveway space. They then started strategically parking their cars to make it as difficult as possible for the workers. They threatened to report the workers to ICE, despite having no knowledge of the immigration status of the workers. In response to all of this, they rather hilariously pulled up everything around and under the son's car, so only the tires were still on the driveway. Then, the son showed up at the door and told my mom that he just made his first $1 million and that he's going to buy the house and make her life miserable. In fact, one day I was in the backyard and the guy leaned over the fence and swore at me. When I turned around, he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were your mother." Well, as karma would have it, they eventually sold the house for nearly $500,000 under their asking price. And I can definitely say that the new neighbors are absolutely lovely. Wow, how entitled and weird can you possibly get? Like, that guy seriously tried to buy that property back for what, $1? That's not only insulting, but also insane. And it really seems like they almost expected the mom in this story to just give it over. So with all things considered, I'm just really glad that those neighbors moved out and that they were not able to sell it for the price they were looking for, because their attitude and demeanor was completely inappropriate. And I know if I was in your mom's shoes, I would be very upset and annoyed by them as well. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my brother any further after he ended up in jail because of his excess drinking? Because right now his mother is calling me a jerk, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my half-brother has a long history of drinking in excess. He got his act together for a while after his daughter was born, but after he broke up with her mother, his drinking became more out of control than ever. He lost his job, his license, he lost custody, and eventually his home. I tried to help him by getting him health insurance and bringing him to a detox center. When he left detox, I helped him with his supervised visitations with his daughter and gave him a list of all kinds of resources to help him maintain his sobriety. But unfortunately, he did not take advantage of any of them, and he lost his visitation privileges shortly thereafter. I then got him into a 90-day rehab facility, and I told him that was the last time I was going to help him. He did still have his resources for when he got out. Well, apparently, he checked himself out after less than 30 days and promptly showed up at his child's mother's house and demanded to see his daughter. When she refused, he decided to drink 1/5 of a bottle of vodka and drive with no license, no insurance, with an expired inspection sticker, and then attempted to resist arrest when he was, of course, pulled over. He called me from jail the other day and asked me to bail him out. He wanted me to let him stay with me and help him get visitation with his daughter again at my house. But I told him I'm not doing any of the above and to not call me again until he starts doing right by himself and his daughter. My husband supports me 100% and says that if I did help him, I would just be enabling him. But my half-brother's mother called me sobbing and said that it's not being able to see his daughter that is causing him to make such poor life choices and begged me to reconsider. I told her that I'm sorry, but I don't see it that way. He lost the right to see his daughter because he was already making poor life choices. Well, she said that she never knew me to be so heartless, and then she hung up on me on the spot. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? No, the original poster is definitely not the jerk. You did literally everything you could do to try and help this guy out. You brought him to detox centers, you gave him a list of resources, you even organized his visitations with his daughter. Seriously, you were going way above and beyond to help this guy out. So I don't blame you for saying sorry, but I'm not helping you any further. Because in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. I would explain to him that I can't help him any further and that he needs to get his life in order. It's also really ridiculous that the mom is calling up and acting like this when she easily could step up to the plate and also help her son out. It really seems like she's pointing the finger at you and being like, wow, why would you not help him out? But it's like, lady, what are you doing to help him out? Why am I the only person in the family that can help him get his life together? Because you've definitely put your time in. You've done everything within reason to try and help this guy out. So for the mom to call you heartless is just so disgusting in my opinion. Because out of anyone, clearly you're the only one that cared. And if this mom really wants her son to have some kind of better future, then maybe it's time for her to take over and try to help out instead. Am I the jerk for refusing to eat a vegan meal at a movie night that historically has been a wings and pizza night? Because right now, my friend is incredibly upset. And at this point, me and my friends seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So me and my group of friends have the tradition of having movie nights every Friday and Saturday. Usually, the same two people host due to availability and space in their home, as well as their roommate situations. And we'll either all contribute with snacks, or the host will provide food and drinks, and we'll all chip in or just order food in whatever app has the lowest delivery fee. Well, one of the guys in the group has been dating this new girl for a couple of weeks, and he wanted to introduce her to the group. And I guess she wanted to make a good impression, so he told us that she wanted to host the movie night that week. We all thought that was super considerate, and we agreed, since she seemed like a really nice girl, and the gesture was really kind. When the day came along, we asked what she wanted to do in terms of food, and she just said that she would provide the food. Obviously, that was fine for us, especially since sometimes we already did that, so we happily agreed. However, when we got there, the food was all vegan and fit type food, which there isn't really anything wrong with that, but it's just not something that we wanted to eat on a Friday movie night. It was a lot of vegan sushi type of stuff, where you would have random stuff rolled up with a cucumber, or fruit on skewers and crackers with dipping sauce. We didn't know that she was vegan at first, but upon looking at the food selection, we figured it out pretty quickly. When she told us the price, we all got a little confused. We thought it was nice of her to want to cook, but it was really just weird that she wanted to force feed us a vegan diet when none of us were vegan, and when she knew that we were more than fine bringing our own stuff. We told her that we appreciated the work that she went through, but that it wasn't something that we enjoyed, and we didn't want to pay for food that we didn't like or didn't even want to eat. Well, our friend is now not talking to us, all because we upset his girlfriend. But not only did we just not want to consume the food, but the bill was also significantly more expensive than we usually have because it was all bio ingredients that she used, not to mention all of the vegan substitutions that she had as well. Some of my friends straight up didn't like the stuff that was in the vegan sushi. They had an aversion to cucumber and cream cheese, and it was very prevalent in what she made. But I will admit that I was a little bit more petty. I really look forward to the wings and pizza that await me at the end of a long week, and I feel irritated that this was switched out for a meal that I could have gotten at the gym or on a random Tuesday. And I also think it was quite petty for not giving us a heads up about the food. I think we all agreed to politely decline, but invite her to spend the next movie night with us elsewhere. So honestly, am I the jerk for refusing to eat this stuff? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. For this lady to suddenly change the menu on what is historically a wings and pizza party, in my opinion, is really weird and so misguided. Because this friend has been to these parties, right? He knows what everybody likes to eat, and not once has anyone been like, ooh, let's have a vegan meal. And I am right there with the original poster. If I showed up to some kind of party night and I was given a vegan menu, I think I would lose my mind. I would be so frustrated. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. They really should have warned you ahead of time, because this is just super annoying, and nobody deserves to be blindsided in this way. An entitled couple lies repeatedly about their order being wrong and cause a lot of chaos for workers who definitely were doing their job. And I'm honestly just so annoyed by their dishonesty that I really wish I documented my interactions with them a little bit better. Here's what happened. So today we had a couple come in and order food and get some drinks. I first had a ticket come through that they ordered some cocktails, so I get to making it. By the time the drinks were in the shaker, the gentleman comes to the bar and asks to cancel the cocktails. I was almost done making them, but whatever. I voided the items and he orders a bottle for his table instead of the cocktails. I bring the bottles to the table, show him the bottle, ask if he would like to try it first, but they say no, so I leave. And that is honestly perfectly fine. They then order some food. I'm not on food, but I'm watching as the lady tells the server that she ordered something different, which again, there's no issue with that. So new food gets brought out, but she says again that it is the wrong order and said it was something different again. Now I know for a fact this is what she ordered as I heard it. And I say that because I was behind the bar opposite of her table. I heard the whole interaction and I know she kept changing what she wanted. I think 3 or 4 times she sent the meal back. And at this point, the manager is involved as well as 2 to 3 other staff members. As the server was bringing her meal back to the kitchen, she then has a conversation with another table. I didn't catch the start of the conversation, but I did hear them say that they ordered cocktails too, but they haven't come to their table either. Now, I knew full and well that they had canceled their cocktail order. It also wasn't as if they canceled because it was taking too long, as it was literally around 5 minutes from placing the order that the husband came to the bar and canceled. Now, I obviously can't interject at this point, but she is basically trying to make us look as bad as possible to the other guest, and blatantly lying that none of us know what she wants. She finally gets a meal that she's happy with, and this is after bringing one of the servers to tears. But I hear again that the couple were complaining that they had received wine that they didn't order and were attempting to send it back. Now, I'm not sure if they were successful in doing so, but the bottle was literally half empty. This husband literally came to the bar and ordered the bottle himself. I'm not sure if they weren't happy with the place at this point, and I'm kicking myself for not making him sign for the bottle. At the end of the night, the manager is far from happy and tells us that the couple came to him with many complaints and likely a distasteful review. But my interactions with the couple were very polite and they seemed very happy with their drinks up until the point they started to complain. So I'm not sure what their aim was, but I'm willing to bet they were probably in it for a free meal. Yeah, in my opinion, it kind of seems like this was really on purpose. Like for starters, they absolutely asked for that bottle and then drank half the bottle and then had the audacity to be like, oh yeah, we didn't want this bottle. We were waiting for our cocktails. Nothing came along. It's also pretty suspect that they sent back the order, 3 to 4 times? Like that's just really weird, and it's also really rude because the original poster, it sounds like they're on the right track. Like they had a normal, if not pleasant interaction with this couple. So for them to try and flip the script all of a sudden and be like, wow, nothing is ready for us and nothing that we ordered is coming to our table. I don't know about you, but that really comes off as disingenuous, and it really does seem like they were just trying to work the system. And considering how hard the staff worked to make sure they got everything they wanted, that in my opinion is incredibly disappointing. Am I the jerk for putting up a no trespassing sign on my fence after seeing my neighbor's kid on the roof of my shed? Because right now I am seriously very frustrated, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I moved into my neighborhood about 5 years ago, and I'm a single female in my mid to late 20s. Early on, I would hang out with the children on my street and be lenient with them regarding being on my property. A little under 2 years in, I got a puppy that got out quite a few times over the first couple of years of owning her, and my neighbor has been helpful in helping get her and keep her in their house or backyard sometimes if I'm not home. This family has been generous on other occasions, such as having me over for dinner once, shoveling my driveway a couple of times, and assisting with putting a new fence up that benefited them as much as it benefited me. Over the past few years, there have been numerous occasions where their son will either hop the fence to get into my backyard or open the gate and later leave it open because it's too tall for him. My dog got out a few more times because this happened on multiple occasions. I had asked my neighbor's son and the other children on our street if they could please ask for permission before entering my backyard. I had even talked to my neighbor's mother about it a few times, one of which was when she was opening my back gate to let her son in. Her reasoning for this was that because I was not home when her son knocked on my door, she took it upon herself to let him in. After that moment, I bought a no trespassing sign to put on my fence, but ended up not using it. Thankfully, the past few months have been fine, and my neighbor's son and his friends were even coming to my front door to ask if I could get their ball for them, so I figured that we were past this in some kind of way. This morning, I was driving back onto my street, but when I was about to pass my house to get into my driveway, I saw my neighbor's son and a friend on the roof of my shed, which is in my backyard, with my neighbor next door helping them out. I stopped my car right there, and I called out asking what they were doing. The father responded that there was a ball between the fence and my shed, and the only accessible way of getting the ball was by climbing my shed. Now, that's all good and fine, but I asked why he couldn't wait to ask me before doing it, and I literally just didn't get a response. When Timmy and his parents left for the day, I went outside and I put a no trespassing sign on the fence right near my shed, which is right next to their property line. Well, 5 hours later, they arrived home, and I received a text message from the mother outlining how generous they have been and how they have respected my boundaries, so they were really hurt by my sign that I put up. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk, because your neighbors are 100% out of line. You told them repeatedly, please stay out of my yard. Like this isn't an isolated incident where this has happened once or twice, but instead this is a consistent thing that keeps happening. Like these people don't respect your privacy or your property at all. So in my opinion, I think a no trespassing sign isn't nearly enough, because if I was in your shoes, I would be getting locks for my gates as well as cameras for my yard in case they come back for some reason. Because you can bet one day if they're standing on top of the roof of your shed, that kid's gonna fall down and break his arm. And it's gonna be then and only then these parents are gonna have a problem with their kid in your backyard. And it's somehow gonna become your problem instead of theirs. And I personally think that it wouldn't be a bad idea to try and get ahead of that. My entitled in-laws decide to leave a $1 tip after I picked up their tab of over $240. But now, after I asked them to pay for their own meals in the future, they've called me ungrateful, claiming that I should be glad that they showed up to spend time with me in the first place. And I'm honestly so blown away by their entitlement that at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So every other week, my fiance and I go out to eat with her family, and last week we went to a Korean barbecue restaurant owned by my uncle, where I paid for everybody's meal. I only asked them to cover the tip for the waitress, which they agreed to do so. The total tab was over $240, and I just paid for it. Usually when I cover the tab for my friends or significant other, they generously tip since they're only responsible for the gratuity, not the cost of the meal itself. However, a few days ago, my cousins revealed that they had only left a $1 tip, and they have done this before. I was shocked and disappointed because a $1 tip is insultingly low, especially considering I had treated them to alcohol and dessert. So I discussed this issue with my fiance, but her family insists that they never tip, or only pays like $1 for a tip at a restaurant or even just general services. Mind you, this is happening in the United States. Well, as a result, I informed my fiance that our bi-weekly restaurant outings would have to change. I told her that I had only paid for their meals as a kind gesture, and while my fiance was annoyed, she ultimately understood. Well, yesterday, they asked if I would buy their food again next week, to which I responded that they will need to cover their own expenses for their own meal. I didn't want to confront them about their habit of tipping only $1, so I decided to handle it differently this time, and simply pretend to cover the tip for them. Well, her family did not take to that so well. They accused me of being ungrateful, arguing that they were the ones taking time to meet up with me bi-weekly, and that asking them to tip was unreasonable in the beginning. They also suggested that since my family is wealthy, it's only fair that I continue paying for their meals. Now, my fiance was surprisingly on my side. She knew her family had this issue, but she didn't have enough courage to say anything about it. So honestly, am I the jerk for deciding not to buy anyone's food anymore? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your future in-laws sound absolutely miserable. Like seriously, they're acting like this is a burden on them, or like it's some kind of sacrifice that they have to go through just to see you. But you're literally dropping what, $240 for all of their food? And this is at a family-owned restaurant too, by the way. Like how ungrateful can you possibly get? And it's funny that they would say that you're ungrateful, since they're basically trying to argue that them showing up in the first place is like a gift or some kind of blessing in your life, which is just crazy to me. All you wanted them to do was leave a healthy tip for the server. It's not like you're asking them to cover the $240 bill that you paid last time. You just want the server to get some kind of tip that isn't just $1, which by the way, that's incredibly disgusting. I'm right there with most people when it comes to like tipping culture, and in my opinion, I think the whole tipping culture is way out of control. But in this instance, when you have a server waiting on you hand and foot, I think a tip of only $1 is incredibly insulting. They literally made sure that you had everything. They got your food to you, they got your drinks, everything was taken care of. You had a personal assistant making sure your meal was right, and you only give them $1 as a tip? Like, that's just ridiculous. And this situation is one of those things where I'm like, yes, they should be given a tip for being a server. But with all that put to the side, their attitude towards you is incredibly ungrateful. Like, it sounds like they want a free meal out of you instead of actually getting to spend time with you in any kind of way. And that, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and if I was in your shoes, I would never bring him to that restaurant ever again.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
Am I the jerk for giving my friends a hard time about getting food from a food bank since they make a lot of money and actually lied on their application just so they could get free food? Because right now I'm questioning everything, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I went to go visit a group of friends recently who all share an apartment. During my trip, I tagged along with them to pick up some food from our local food bank. Now, I found this odd only because I know for a fact that they aren't struggling financially. They've all graduated from college and are currently in graduate school. They each individually make over $45,000 per year, with one of them making as much as $65,000 per year. Combined, their total household income exceeds $200,000, which is something that they've explicitly told me. In fact, one of them recently just bought a brand new car that was about $50,000. My point being is that they are not struggling to put food on their table. During our drive to the food bank, one of them made a joke about how the volunteers at the food bank would see the brand new car and then refuse to give him any food donations. But I responded to this by saying that the food bank would be justified in doing that since there are many people who could benefit from the food that they're giving away. One of my friends responded to me by saying, "The food bank has a ton of excess food that would go to waste anyways." But I told her she was rationalizing her choices. She snapped at me and said, "Why don't you just shut up? You're just trying to imply that we're taking food away from people when you have no idea what you're talking about." So I told her that I'm not implying it, but instead she's saying exactly that. And that was the end of the conversation. Now, I should also mention two other details. For starters, this specific food bank isn't open to everyone. It has specific income requirements, and my friends lied about their income on their registration forms. Secondly, once we got back to their place, they ended up throwing away about a third of the food that were given because they either didn't want it or because it wasn't the best quality. And mind you, the food was definitely still edible, but maybe not in the best condition. So I really need to know, am I the jerk for getting all my friends about this? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, no, you're not the jerk for being like, wait a second, this is sketchy. Like, they're going to the food bank and taking food when they definitely don't need it. And on top of that, they lied on their application just so they can get free food. Like, these do not sound like good people at all. Like, they are actively going out of their way just to steal food from a food bank. And it's food that they don't even need. They could easily buy some groceries and then some with all the money that they're making. It also brings into question why the original poster would even be friends with people like this. I know if I saw my friends acting like this, I would be questioning if I ever want to be around them ever again, because this is an entirely different level of dishonesty. And the fact that they think this is okay, in my opinion, is incredibly sketchy. My parents make me feel like anything I ever do is never enough. And right about now, I'm considering moving out because I am so sick of being treated the way that I am. Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old male living with my dad and stepmom. We recently moved out of state to a new place with 12 to 13 acres and have been living out here for the past year and a half. However, I feel like it's time for me to move out. I don't just live with my parents and do nothing. I work a full-time job 5 days a week, which I feel very blessed in, as my job is very supportive and I have awesome coworkers to work with. I'm not making tons of money, but I have opportunities for advancement as well as pay raise incentives. I pay my dad $500 a month in rent and also pay my own phone bill, my car insurance, my internet bill, and I pay for my own credit card bills. Not to mention also helping out with groceries or other minor things that might be going on. I have never asked them for money ever, and if anything, I end up paying for things I would rather not if possible. Well, I just recently got into a huge fight with my dad that turned very nasty. I was venting about how I was stressed out about trying to find time to get salt during my lunch break at work. This is because we had a coworker leave and my assistant manager went on maternity leave. So we are very short-staffed. I am trying to juggle many different tasks and responsibilities at work, and it can get very very overwhelming sometimes. Despite that, I feel most of my stress is from the emotional drama at home because my family constantly fights and argues amongst each other on a daily basis. Well, my dad suddenly blew up and threw everything that I did in my face, acting like I need to grow up and that his stress is so bad that I couldn't possibly imagine how hard it is for him. He is trying to get back to starting up his hardwood flooring business again because he just quit his job as a mechanic because he hated it, all because he would get ripped into by his boss on a daily basis. Now, I understand that is a challenging thing, but it made me feel completely insignificant and worthless. We ended up exchanging nasty words, and it even got physical, even though he was the one who provoked me first. Long story short, we ended up screaming at each other, and I said some nasty things. Things got more physical from there, but eventually my stepmom started freaking out and threatened to call the sheriff. Now, I understand the things I said and my anger was not okay at all, but I was so hurt by how insignificant and worthless he made me feel. I know it's tough for my dad dealing with those things, but every time I try to talk to him about any stress I'm going through, he acts like I'm just supposed to get over it and deal with it. In his eyes, I'm just an immature child that will never understand how hard it is for him. Even after everything calmed down, they just told me that I act like I don't have to do anything just because I pay rent. I spend all my time doing everything they want me to and hanging out with them, so it's becoming super confusing for me. I feel like they just expect me to know what they want done all the time. And when I say that most of my time is spent hanging out with them, I really mean that. I have no social life outside of work. I have no other friends. All my extended family and relatives are out of state, and they make no effort to stay in contact with any of us. And yet my parents tell me that I need to do more helping with little things around the house. At this point, I have a better relationship with people at work compared to home, and sometimes I would rather stay at work and work overtime instead of coming home to deal with more family drama. We don't have a dishwasher, so I help out with cleaning the dishes and drying them and putting them away, and I'm the only one who vacuums the basement in our house and cleans and pays for the cat litter because they don't like my cat downstairs, which, by the way, it's actually my sister's cat that she abandoned after running away from home and abandoning everyone and everything. And all they do is say terrible things about the cat and my sister. I also do all my own laundry, and I help out with their laundry too. We also take care of animals, and I help them when we do go down to take care of those things. They complain about how I stop helping take the trash out, and it's because they canceled our trash service in a fit of rage since the trash men don't pick it up, and now we're supposed to be burning it all in burn barrels. I just end up shutting down because they constantly lecture me on everything I do, and it makes me feel incapable and incompetent. It's like they just expect me to know what they want done 24/7, and instead of asking me for help or communicating that these things need to be done, they just get mad and complain about how nobody helps them with anything. Now, I don't agree with what my sister did at all, and I have my own feelings about it, but my stepmom constantly compares everybody that she doesn't like to her and calls anything and anyone she doesn't like my sister's name. It gets irritating, especially when they constantly complain about everyone and everything, and then wonder why nobody wants to do anything with them. They go out and talk to all these people, and then as soon as we leave, all the trash talking starts. It's extremely negative, and I don't know how to keep my composure anymore because they treat me like I don't know what I'm talking about anytime I try to make suggestions. I don't even spend much time doing things that I want to do for myself, aside from maybe 1 to 2 hours a night when they go to sleep. Yet I get treated like I'm this selfish person, even though I feel like I'm practically waiting on them hand and foot. Now, my boss at work has been very supportive, which is a blessing, and is telling me that my parents are just going to keep gaslighting me whenever things go south, and that it's time for me to move out and get my own place. I get the feeling that no matter how hard I try to take care of things with my family and the household, that it is never going to be enough, and they will always find something to endlessly complain about. I feel like I'm constantly suppressing all this built-up anger and resentment and acting like everything's okay when it's really not. My dad and stepmom's relationship isn't even that great to begin with because they constantly bicker, fight, and argue with each other over the most minor things. I hate to say it, but it's like they just enjoy being miserable and expect me to be this happy-go-lucky ray of sunshine who has this perfect life, and I'm supposed to be in a good mood all the time when they constantly are angry, miserable, argumentative, confrontational, and always have a bad attitude. So am I overreacting, or is it time for me to move out and get started on my own life? I'm trying to stay positive, but I feel like I'm at war with all the negativity and mental stress. I feel like I don't know what to do or what to believe anymore. Yeah, that's sounds like a really bad living situation, and I don't blame you for like considering moving out. Like the way they're treating you is so inappropriate, and you've got it right. It really seems like they just want to be miserable and complain all the time. And like, how is that fair for you at all? So yes, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be moving out. Your parents sound absolutely miserable, and you do not have to be forced to live in that kind of environment for another second. My entitled boss lays into me after I take 10 extra minutes for lunch. So I decided to get revenge by refusing to work any extra hours after work, eventually leading to them having to hire 3 new people just to cover my job when I eventually quit for something better. Here's what happened. So I worked for a large brokerage firm in their mutual funds division. My duties included working on special projects for the controller, coordinating with the users on any issues that needed to be addressed, and working on automating all processes. I love my job and I was really good at it. Since I had these various jobs, I had 2 computers so that I could run the programs that I was modifying while still working on the other jobs. Now, as I stated, I love the work since I basically did what I wanted to do with minimal, if any, supervision. Due to this, I regularly came in early, sometimes as early as 7 o'clock in the morning, and stayed as late as 7 o'clock p.m. I easily did 2 to 3 times the work of anybody else. I was always the first one in and generally the last one to leave. Well, one day I took a lunch break, which was also rare as I brought my lunch and I worked straight through. Unfortunately, I had some errands to run and I ended up getting back after taking an extra 10 minutes. I was then summoned to my manager's office where he reamed me for over an hour for these 10 minutes. Eventually, I had had enough of this, and so I asked him if he realized how early I got in and how late I stayed over, and his answer absolutely blew me away. He said, "It doesn't matter how early you get in or how late you stay. It's only what happens between 9 and 5 that counts." So I decided to maliciously comply. I stopped going in early. I would take a walk or read a book until 8:55 a.m. I would take a break mid-morning, take exactly 1 hour for lunch, and another break in the afternoon. I would stop work at 4:45 p.m. and clean my work area. Exactly at 5 o'clock p.m., I would shut down my computers and leave for the day. And you know what? He never said anything about this, as he knew he brought it on himself. All that resulted from this is that he lost 5 hours of work a day from me. Not long after this, I left for brighter pastures at an increase of total compensation of almost 100%, especially since I found a very high-scale investment firm to work at. I later found out they needed to hire 3 people to do my work, and just like someone would say, you don't know how good you have it until it disappears. Wow, the manager in this story is a complete idiot. They literally just shot themselves in the foot by reprimanding an employee who literally goes above and beyond to get stuff done. Like they literally picked the wrong person to mess with, because as it is, they were already doing so much work. So good for you for maliciously complying, as well as for finding a better job, because those people definitely did not appreciate the way that you worked. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for being mad at my sister for constantly making underhanded comments about me and passing them off as jokes or mistakes? Because at this point, I'm seriously frustrated and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for some background, my sister and I are 2 years apart. I love her a lot, but she's never really felt too much affection towards me. She is very outwardly kind in front of our larger family, but usually likes to start fights and arguments and then blame them on me. She is very full of herself and wants to have a very specific profession that she simply is not cut out for. Over the past couple of years, I've noticed that she tends to scoff at me or say things like, "Yeah, right," or "Sure, whatever you think." And this is whenever I talk about stuff that I'm good at. One interest that both of us share is singing. We both love it, and even though she may practice more, I have enough natural talent to keep up. Whenever she is getting complimented, she is always very proud and starts bragging that she's the best voice in the family. My parents always tell her that we're both equal, but she will just say, okay, sure, whatever makes you happy. She can even be meaner without family around. Whenever she hears me sing, she plugs her ears and tells me to stop and other things like that. Now, for this next part, I need to give you a little bit more information. Firstly, I'm not the skinniest person. I'm not overweight, but I'm not as slim and thin as other people my age, therefore making me less attractive. My sister is very skinny for her age, and she is very pretty. She boyfriend hops a lot and always has someone to go to if one relationship fails. She always criticizes my style and the way I do my styling. For instance, she loves doing makeup. She loves watching videos about makeup and practicing makeup. But when it comes to me, on the other hand, I know just enough for it to look good. But my sister claims that unless you practice a lot, it's going going to look ugly. She then offers to redo my makeup and hair because she doesn't want me to embarrass myself in public. She often makes fun of the way I dress as well. I love sweaters, sweatpants, and t-shirts, and she loves crop tops, leggings, and tights, and thin veil-like shawls. She says that she is always in fashion and that I need to follow her lead if I want to be popular. She isn't even that popular herself, but when I express my dislike with her saying that, she just tells me that she's looking out for me. When I'm telling my family about something, like a cute outfit or a new makeup look I tried, she just asks me what video I used to find it and makes my whole family believe I was taking credit for somebody else's work. She hates it when I do better at something than she does and will roll her eyes and scoff, telling me that I need to stop showing off because other people have done it before and I'm not that important. She always embarrasses me in front of my family and friends and still gets all of the attention. I have learned to not talk about my accomplishments unless she is not around, but that is almost never. So everyone thinks that I'm a failure now, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your sister's a massive jerk. She steamrolls any opportunity you have to show off anything that you're good at, and she's so quick to take away any credit you might have towards something that you did on your own. Like, I can only imagine how obnoxious that must be, as well as how frustrating it might be whenever you try to share anything. And it's almost like your sister's making like everything a competition between the two of you, but it's a competition that she created, and it's one where she changes the rules whenever she wants. Like, it's already pretty obvious that she's an attention hog in and of itself, and it almost seems like her mission in life to try and keep you from having anything that you really enjoy. Like, she's coming after you for singing, as well as the clothes you wear and the makeup that you put on. Like, your sister sounds super obnoxious, and that would really be annoying to deal with. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for being mad at your sister for the way she's talking about you, because all these comments are not just like passing jokes or anything like that, and she's not trying to help you out and be like, oh, I'll redo your makeup because it looks awful, because what she's really saying is, oh, your makeup looks awful, even though she's trying to pass it off as like helping you out, because honestly, you do not deserve this kind of treatment in the slightest. My entitled mother abandoned me when I was a child, refusing to raise me, thus forcing my grandparents to step up and take care of me as a child. But now that she found out that I'm getting married, she has suddenly stepped right back into my life, demanding to be involved in the wedding planning process. And I've honestly never been more frustrated by anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of context, my parents did not raise me. My mother baby trapped my dad, which is definitely not a good start, and short after the announcement, he left. She didn't want me anymore, so my grandparents took me and raised me as their own. She was never a mother to me, and when my grandparents died, we lost contact for 2 years. Fast forward, and I announced my engagement on Facebook, and she called me right afterwards. Now, it's important to know that she's not my Facebook friend, nor does she have my number, so I was so confused. Now, if it's not weird enough, she starts arguing with me that she's upset that I didn't call her first, as she's my mother. She said that a wedding is a big event for a mother and her daughter, and she wanted to be involved. And oh boy, trust me, did she complain about everything. It's a spring wedding, so nature and cottagecore thematics, and the dress code is pastel colors. No brown or gray, black, white, even for me and my fiancé. And my menu is mostly vegetarian. I posted pictures of me and my bridesmaids dress shopping, and she called me furious. She said that I owe my sisters the bridesmaid titles, and dress shopping is a thing between a mother and her daughter, and I just ruined her experience. Now, for reference, my sisters are not even on the guest list. And about that, this is a child-free wedding. And she said to me, this is a personal attack against her new family, and that she can't accept that. I replied by saying, okay, well, you guys are not invited anyways. Well, she ignored me, obviously, as my aunt must have shown her the invitation because she called me again. She said that my sisters being neurodivergent would be overwhelmed by an outside wedding, and that I need to have a buttered pasta or a hot dog on my menu or they wouldn't eat. I replied again by saying, I don't care because you guys are not invited, and it was then that I decided to block her. But yet again, she calls me with her boyfriend's phone and tells me that she found a better venue for me. Also, she said that since I'll wear her wedding dress, we need to meet for measurements. Now, for reference, her dress is a big white princess dress with a corset, but I told her that none of that is on the theme and that she needs to stop calling me. Fast forward to recently, and she messaged me on Instagram and said that I need to change my wedding day because this is my date and it will bring misfortune. So I'm honestly just so annoyed at my mom's entitlement because I seriously do not want her showing up at my wedding. Wow, your mom is seriously obnoxious. Not only did she baby trap your dad,
bad, but she also didn't want anything to do with you. She literally is the definition of an awful mother. And now that you're getting married and you have this wonderful dream wedding that you're planning, she is suddenly trying to insert herself in the middle of this and acting like you two have some amazing relationship, even though you definitely don't. Like seriously, what is her problem? She's trying to pretend like you had some great upbringing between the two of you, when in reality your own grandparents had to step in as parents and raise you. It is really disgusting the way she's acting, and the way she's literally trying to take over your wedding. I mean, wouldn't you think that she would catch on eventually that you are not inviting her to your wedding, and that she is not going to be there no matter what, meaning that she has no say in what you do or don't do for your wedding? And on that note, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a bad idea to hire some kind of security. I can guarantee you, if she's this obsessive about your wedding, then she will absolutely try to show up and probably crash your wedding. Because based on what you've described, I would not put that past her in the slightest. And I think that definitely is a reality that you need to be prepared for. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My husband of 19 years doesn't trust me and can't get over me kissing another guy 23 years ago, and constantly brings this up anytime we have an argument, and I'm now at such a loss that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I met my husband when I was 23 years old. We are now 46 and 47. We've been married for 19 years and we have 2 children. The circumstances surrounding the commencement of our relationship are complex. For starters, I was unfaithful. It happened due to me being in a bad place mentally at the time that we met. Now, I'm not using this as an excuse. I was completely in the wrong. I was young and immature, and I wasn't ready for a committed relationship. I wanted to live the single life after being in a long-term relationship since the age of 14, including one that ended very badly. My coping mechanism was denial, and I led a double life for a few weeks in the first few months after we started dating. I flirted with a guy at work and I kissed him 3 times. If guys were interested in me, I teased, but other than the kisses I mentioned earlier, I wasn't intimate with anyone except for my husband. I was 23 and I was stupid. Eventually, I came to my senses and I came clean. My husband and I had fallen for each other hard and very quickly. I wasn't ready for a committed relationship, but I was in love and I wanted to make things right. He initially wanted to break up with me, but I left the decision up to him. He asked me to cut off all contact with the other boys, and so I did exactly that. I even cut off most of my friendships and social circles, just to demonstrate how sorry I was and to help regain his trust. And since then, I have not done a single thing to give him any doubt of my fidelity. I greatly regret my actions and would give anything to repair the hurt I caused my husband. He eventually said he forgave me and we could move on together. We then had a great relationship and married 4 years later. Now, fast forward 23 years, and he still brings up the events of our early relationship whenever we have an argument. He keeps trying to get me to confess that I slept with someone even though I didn't. Our marriage has disintegrated. We have 2 kids with disabilities, so the focus for a long time has been on them. We have no connection and we are not in a happy marriage. I now also have early onset Parkinson's disease, so things are really hard for me, but I still work and I still manage the bulk of the kids' disabilities and the mental load. A year ago at Christmas, he blew up at me and said that he wanted a divorce. He said that I was too controlling and he had had enough. The trigger was me staying up late cooking gingerbread cookies and then tidying up the toy room. Parkinson's keeps me awake at night, so I decided to get some chores done, and that kept him awake. I didn't realize that it was such a problem. The next morning, I was rearranging things in a different way than he wanted, and he just blew up at me. He got completely drunk, ruined the family Christmas, and made a total mess of himself. The past got brought up again, and he wanted revenge. He stole Christmas money that was gifted to me so that he could use it on a lady of the night, if you know what I mean. Now, I stayed calm throughout all of it. I tried to keep him safe and defuse the situation, despite the hurt that I was feeling. Now, he didn't follow through with wanting to see a lady of the night, and he did return the money the next day. And on that next day, he sobered up and he apologized. He said that he wasn't coping mentally, and he didn't mean what he said. I forgave him and I supported him. He said he would organize marriage counseling, even though he hasn't done that, and stayed sober for about a year. He saw a counselor at work for himself twice, but didn't follow up ongoing sessions. Now he has started drinking again. He doesn't drink to excess, but has a few drinks every night. We haven't been intimate in years and we have no connection. We live parallel lives. He has his own hobbies and enjoyment, and I enjoy the kids and their disabilities, and I try to manage my disability too. But I struggle to find the time due to all my efforts going towards the kids
and even him. My disease is so bad that even walking is a challenge. But I push on alone for my kids. I listen to any problems that he has and I offer support. I have lots of problems too, but I don't bring them up. I keep everything inside as I'm afraid to let him in. My home life and my career is in tatters. I am slowly losing everything that once made me who I am. I was in a bad place late last year and I wanted to end things between us. He said he would arrange counseling even though he didn't, and we talked about what we could do to get back on track. But unless I initiate things, they literally just don't happen. I see a counselor on my own to help me deal with my own disability. Myself and the kids have a disability support worker who is single and spends a lot of time supporting our family. On Saturday, my husband invited her around to make kombucha together. I told him that I had to take the kids to the pediatrician and that I wouldn't be home. Well, he still invited her, and she came around while I wasn't home. Then I found a text message from her for his birthday, signed with a kiss emoji. Now, she is close to our family, so this may have been an innocent thing, but I was upset and uncomfortable about these two things, and I told him exactly how I felt. Well, he apologized and then brought up what happened 23 years ago. Again, it happens whenever we fight, or whenever I bring up an issue. He even went through old photo albums to look for evidence of me cheating on him. He didn't find anything as there is nothing to find, and I feel like I've been the perfect wife and have stuck by him and forgiven him on many occasions. But he has still not forgiven me for something I did 23 years ago. He tells me that he loves me, but I don't feel that he does. I think he is staying with me only for the kids and because I take care of everything else in our life. I pay all the bills, I organize all the medical care for our kids, the school administration, the calendar, all the paperwork, etc. And I do this while holding down a job and dealing with a worsening disability. I'm so exhausted by all of this. So seriously, can we ever recover from this? If he can't trust me now, will he ever trust me again? What should I do? Your husband is a massive piece of garbage, and the way he's treating you is completely inappropriate. You're telling me this guy has seriously held a grudge for 23 years? Like, my God, this guy just can't let anything go. And it's evidence that he clearly didn't forgive you back in the day when this first came out. And here's the thing, you recognize that you made a mistake. You were 23 years old and you were very stupid. You admit that yourself. So you would think that your husband would come to some kind of conclusion that you really are sorry and you are trying to move on from that. But instead, after 23 years, he still brings this up as if it happened yesterday. And it makes me think, like, buddy, what is wrong with you? If it really bothers you that much, and it's been bothering you for literally over 2 decades, then why on earth did you welcome her back into your life? Why not just break it off right then and there and move on and find somebody else? This is all so incredibly inappropriate, and it is not fair for you in the slightest, because you really have done all you can to make up for you being unfaithful. But even still, after 23 years, it is literally still not enough. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she shouldn't have had a baby if she was not prepared to try and take care of it? Because right now, she is furious that I will not be able to help her anymore, as me and my family will be moving away. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my sister and I live about an hour away from each other. She had a baby 4 months ago, and the father, who is her ex-boyfriend of 7 years, left as soon as he found out that she was pregnant. He was a man-child and made it clear that he didn't want anything serious, despite dating her so long. I kept telling her to leave because she always wanted a family and he clearly didn't, and clearly wouldn't have taken responsibility for one. Then she got pregnant and decided to keep it as she was getting older and scared that she wouldn't be able to conceive. Well, she had the baby and had to go right back to work. She never made very much, and her work only let her take FMLA leave for about a month, as she didn't have enough money. She also hasn't taken the father to court despite my insistence that she does, because she cannot afford daycare for her daughter. So now she works from 4 o'clock until 12 o'clock p.m. But I work until 5 o'clock p.m. but from home, so she drops off her baby before going to work. It's distracting from my work, and her daughter has a hard time going to bed and cries pretty much throughout the entire night. My children are sick of it, and so is my husband and I. Hardly anybody can go to bed until she shows up and picks up her kid at 1 in the morning. My children even had to study in the basement as it was quieter. I've told her to move closer, but she hasn't yet, and I really feel like she's making me into the husband that walked out on her in her life. Well, my husband is moving for his fellowship, and I let her know about a week ago that we will be leaving in 2 months. She and I have had this routine for 3 months now, and her daughter is 4 months old. So I let her know she has 2 months to find another method of finding care for her daughter. Well, when I said that, she got mad and accused me of leaving because I didn't want to help anymore, and that my husband could could go alone. I got mad when she said I should prioritize her over my family and pointed out that I'd been helping her for 3 months and it was affecting my work and my children's schooling. She then started crying and yelling that I wasn't being fair and it was only because her ex walked out on her life. I said she knew the father would leave and I had been pointing out that he was not going to be a good father since they were dating. She knew it and her friends also begged her to leave, so if she wanted a child, she should not have stayed. I said that she brought this on herself and she should not have children with a father she knew was useless, and she knew she didn't have the money to take care of a child. She yelled at me saying I was saying that her daughter shouldn't exist, but when she said that, I just left and drove home. She probably cannot find childcare and pay for it, but I feel like I'm now her crutch. Even when we were younger, she relied on me a lot, and I feel like it's better that I just leave and she figures it out. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Honestly, I really feel bad for your sister because she's in a tight spot and the one person she could rely on is suddenly moving away. So I really do take her complaints with a grain of salt because she probably has literally no one to help her out with this child. Which, by the way, yes, it is her own fault, but also that is really a tough situation. Like, I can only imagine what that must feel like to literally have nobody else to look to try and help you figure out this situation. And it's not like you didn't warn her that this would happen. Like, you did say straight up, hey, he's not gonna stick around if you get pregnant. Like, you really did try to give her some kind of warning for her to prep her life in some kind of way, but she ignored it and still had a child. And there's nothing wrong with having kids, but in my opinion, if you're not able to take care of those kids, then you definitely should not be having them. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think this really is just a sad situation for your sister, and I really hope she's able to figure this out sooner than later. My wife has gone off the religious deep end, and it is now drastically impacting our relationship, and I now feel so lost and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of context, we've been married for 3 years and have been together for 8 years in total. Before getting married, it was important to make sure that we were compatible on some bigger questions. I don't follow any scripture-based religion or a personal God and would probably align closest towards atheism, and that has always been the case. My wife was raised Christian, and while she believed in God and all that other stuff, she didn't feel obligated to go to church all the time or take all of that too literally. For example, she confirmed with me that she believed in evolution and stuff like that, which to me really was a relief. A key point here is that she did not want kids at all and was vehement about that. With this as our basis and future plan, we decided to get married. I have always been comfortable to let people hold their own beliefs as long as it does not impact me now or in the future. So we get married, and about 9 months ago, I noticed my wife is starting to go to church regularly and has become more judgmental and focused on nonsense US talking points. For reference, we are not American. She then starts making jokes about wanting a baby. Her whole personality changed suddenly. She was a quiet and relaxed artsy girl, and now seems to be more snarky and highly conservative. She got so offended watching Darren Brown on TV that we had to switch it off. A few more months pass by, and my wife has clearly heavily fallen under the influence. Her friends are solely people from the church. All she listens to are religious podcasts and music. She wanted me to go to church with her every single week, and her phone is a screensaver of a cross, while mine is us getting married. Her only hobby is going to church. And when I brought up the idea that our lives were getting boring and that it may be good to find a new hobby or something like that, all she could come up with were church activities, and she became furious when I suggested that maybe she should be doing something non-religious. Now, all of a sudden, she feels the desperate need for me to open my heart to God and to save our marriage, as if I was the one who was actively changing. She threatened divorce if I did not convert within 2 months, and she had material ready for me to read and watch. Now, I told her that I would go through the material, but that there was no chance of me converting, that it was all stuff I encountered before being raised in a Christian environment too. I believe that she became born again during this period. So I went through the material, and by the end of the 2 months, she had settled down and seemed to accept that I won't change. She doesn't seem to truly believe that I've opened my heart, as she thinks that I would have 100% converted if I did. I try to explain to her that it's easier for her to convert to another religion than it is for me to become a Christian. Now, the baby talk is increasing, regardless of me stating that I do not want to have kids. She is regularly hinting at babies, and bear in mind, she no longer believes in evolution, and she believes in demons and possessions, which is very alarming for me. She has stated that the child will have to be raised under her religion and will be going to church every week. She also doesn't think that
that I should reveal my beliefs. And this is weirdly at odds with her idea of the man being the head of the house, which seems to only relate to paying for stuff, which is another thing that appeared during this period. Now, to be clear, there is a 0% chance of me having children with her. But how long do I sit this out? I mean, could this just be a phase? Will I ever get back the woman that I fell in love with and married back in the day? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, the way your wife is acting is seriously insane. Here's the thing, if you want to be religious, that's totally fine. But for her entire personality to switch pretty much overnight, and for her to do a giant 180 on all the things that you thought you were in agreement for, in my opinion, is not normal. Like, her priorities are completely mixed up, and she's not considering you in this equation in the slightest. So to that end, I think it's a really good idea that you don't have any kids with this lady. She does not sound stable, and seriously, that sounds like a nightmare if you did have kids with her. But here's the thing that in my opinion is like the biggest red flag, and this to me is a massive deal breaker, even though it's really unfortunate. She threatened to divorce you if you didn't join her religion in 2 months. That for me is seriously absolutely uncalled for, and I would not put up with that for a second. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, and I really hope it gets better, because the way your wife is acting is not normal, and I think for your sake, it really would be a good idea to be careful moving forward. Today, I messed up by proposing to my girlfriend, resulting in her second-guessing her entire relationship with me, and then finally breaking up with me. And I honestly feel really stupid for initiating this in the first place, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So as the title suggests, I proposed to my girlfriend of just under 2 years last week. Now, she was surprised, but she said yes. For reference, we're both 21 years old. We both told our families and talked more about it on the way back to our apartment, which was about a 2-hour drive. After we got back, we told our families, and it all seemed good. But problems happened when she got really anxious. We haven't had any major issues before. Even the few arguments that we have, they have all been very minor and quickly resolved. So she gets this massive knot in her stomach and goes home for a week. Well, once she gets back, we talk a lot about how she isn't ready to be engaged and had just not been 100% in, and just that she had been comfortable. The day after, we talk some more, and then boom, she is breaking up with me and says it isn't my fault. She says stuff like she just doesn't want to hurt me more and can't make a promise if she isn't 100%. We talked more this weekend, and she said she isn't willing to go to a relationship counselor or anything like that to try and narrow down the holdup, just to see if we can salvage anything. I don't think that she was looking for a reason to break up or think it's anything like that. We had talked about engagement as well as the future a bunch, and it just seemed right. Her parents were fully supportive of me asking her, and I feel dumb for shaking things up. We had both been content and very happy. What frustrates me the most is just how wrong I was, and how not once when we were talking about stuff did it seem like she wasn't 100% in. I thought we were all in, and we moved in together and had been doing great from what I could tell. So now I'm looking for another place to stay because I was too dumb to realize my near perfect relationship wasn't ready. That I caused a breakup by proposing and causing us both to think about the future and us a lot more than we probably should have. And I'm now seriously unsure of what to do. So honestly, it doesn't seem like the problem is with you at all. If anything, it really seems like your girlfriend is just not ready to get married. Like, you were all in. You felt like, yes, this feels right. Let's pursue this head on and have a life together, or something like that. But she clearly was not feeling the same way. And honestly, with all things considered, this is probably a really good thing to figure out right about now. So I don't fault her at all for saying no. Like, I think that's a very smart and mature thing to do, but I do think it's completely inappropriate for you to be hard on yourself for ever trying to assume that you somehow broke up this relationship. Because in this scenario, I definitely do not think that falls on you in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my mother-in-law in my house to see my son, as she is constantly coming at all hours while being completely neglectful of my son's needs? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that all names in this story are fake. So my husband Jared and I have a 6-month-old son that we will call Jed. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and my mother-in-law Susan lives next door to us. She just moved next door to us a couple of months ago, so this didn't really happen during our son's early months. Plus, there's no way we could have stopped her from moving over here. Ever since she moved here, she has taken to just showing up at the door to see Jed and continuously knocking since she knows I'm home until I open. It's a real problem when I'm trying to put Jed down for a nap or feed him or nap myself or anything else, and she has woken him up multiple times. My dog doesn't bark but starts pacing and whines the entire time, either from excitement or anxiety lady until she leaves or I open the door. Susan showed up 2 weeks ago knocking after I told her the day before that Jed was teething and sleeping terribly. She came right as I had gotten him to sleep and woke him up. I told her at the door that it's not a good time, and she said that she'll come back later. I told her, please just text me so I can make sure he's awake first. It took 2 hours to get Jed back to sleep, and she comes over 10 minutes after I get him down without texting me and wakes him up again. This time, I didn't answer the door. I have a Ring camera, and she stood there for 15 minutes, knocking every few minutes or so. After 15 minutes, she finally texted me saying that she's here to see Jed. I texted her back saying that he's sleeping, and I will let her know when she can finally see him, and then she finally left. When Jared got home, I told him everything, and he went to talk to Susan and told her she needs to text me asking if the time works before just showing up, as she keeps waking up Jed. She said she understood and would only come over when she knows that he's awake. He told her to only come over when I say it's okay. Susan has now taken to standing outside our front door and listening to see if she can hear Jed. It is a small old house, so if he's baby talking or crying, you can usually hear it. If she can, she'll knock and stay knocking until I answer. I've now taken to just ignoring her and taking Jed and my dog into the backyard or as far from the front door as I can get until I can see that she gives up or she leaves on the camera. I told my husband, and he agrees with me, that not letting her in unless she texts me first regardless of whether Jed is awake or not is the way that we need to go about doing this. My father-in-law Grant, who divorced Susan, texted me and Jared yesterday about how she is hurt and how we are being cruel by ignoring her, and how she's always wanted to be a grandma and she deserves an opportunity to bond with her grandson. She hasn't seen him in over a week. We were out of town over the weekend and made a Facebook post about how much she misses him. Susan's siblings were commenting about why she can't see him being next door, and she actually said that we weren't allowing her to for no good reason. Now, between Grant and my aunts and uncles, I'm beginning to feel like an absolute jerk, but I'm still not sure if I am one, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your mother-in-law is being absolutely obnoxious. Does she really think it's okay to knock on your door at all hours and assume that you can somehow just drop what you're doing and hand the baby over to her so that she can see him? Like, I don't know about you, but disrupting a kid's schedule and like all the things they need to do is really not a good idea, because it literally took the original poster, 2 hours to get them back to sleep? And it's literally all because Susan is just knocking on the door like a psychopath. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for setting serious boundaries, and in my opinion, unless you probably move, I can see this happening again and again, because your mother-in-law does not care about boundaries in the slightest. It's very obvious at this point, and I seriously don't see this getting any better anytime soon. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she knows she was a bad mother and that she's created a do-over family, all because she treated her first daughter so terribly? Because right now she is very offended by the things I'm saying, and at this point I'm not sure what to do. Here's what happened. So to start things out, my sister had her daughter when she was 25. We will call that daughter Ashley. Ashley is not her real name. Ashley is now 21 years old, and she has nothing to do with my sister. My sister was never really a good mom, not when Ashley's dad was alive, not when she became a young widow, and not when she decided to focus on herself after losing her husband. Ashley did not have an easy time with my sister, and while my sister went through a lot as well, she was stable in her job, she had support from friends and family, and she had a house. She had any number of resources at her fingertips, but she still chose to be a checked out mother who really didn't care about her child. Ashley spent most of her time with her paternal uncle because of the connection to her dad and their shared grief. He was also amazing to her and stepped up where my sister failed, but Ashley still saw me and my parents a lot, and I was the person she went to for more motherly things. She knew it was a waste of time asking my sister, so she found ways around everything where my sister's advice or guidance wasn't needed, but it wasn't easy on her. She used to say how embarrassed she was at school when everyone was talking about their parents, and she couldn't talk about hers because her mom never made time for her. She never did nice things for her or anything. She didn't even know how old her mom was or what she did for the longest time because my sister was so absent and never shared. She asked my parents one time at their house because she needed the answer for homework and was called lazy by teachers in previous years for not answering the question. Ashley cared less over time, and
and focus more on a life without my sister, and by the time she was 18 years old, Ashley had a solid plan and moved out. It was also by that time that my sister was remarried and expecting a child with her current husband. My sister's husband appeared to have this belief that Ashley would be engaged in the life of their child, and he was super shocked when he realized that Ashley was leaving and was not staying in touch. But he knew who he married, and he knew how bad of a mom my sister was. My sister even said their first child together and their second child were her chance to do things right, and she has frequently said this, which is why I brought this up last week when my sister had complained that Ashley has not met the kids and blocked her after calling her husband and kids my sister's do-over family. My sister took huge offense to that, and she claimed Ashley was lacking in sympathy for how hard it was to be a young widowed mom. I told her that she knows she was a bad mother, and she knows that this is her do-over family because she even said the kids were her chance to do things right, not to do things better, but right, and that her words show that she knows that she was no mother to Ashley, despite many people trying to help in the past years, including me. My sister told me that I had no right to judge her, and she told me to stay out of her life. So honestly, am I the jerk for being honest with her? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Your sister definitely neglected Ashley, and now she's reaping the rewards of not paying attention to her kid. You said it best yourself. She had all these resources at her fingertips. She could have done any number of things to figure out her life for herself and her kid, but instead she focused on herself and basically ignored her child. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not neglecting the fact that she's a widow and her life was like incredibly hard after losing her husband, but in my opinion, that's like the perfect opportunity to step up to the plate and be a better mother for your daughter. And for her to be like, no, this isn't my do-over family, while also saying that this is her chance to do things right, in my opinion is like super messed up. Like if I was in Ashley's shoes, I would not want to contact her ever again either. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for putting this in perspective for your sister, because her behavior is absolutely atrocious. And in my opinion, I think this just might be some tough love that she definitely needs to hear. Am I the jerk for excluding my wife's friend from a trip solely because we think that she is annoying? Because right now, my wife thinks that I should give her a chance. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my wife has a friend that we will call Dana. Dana is not her real name. They have been friends for a little over 10 years, and it's important to note that the only friend Dana has is my wife. Now, for the sake of this story, I'll call my wife Laura, also not her real name. Dana has always had difficulties making and keeping friends, and this is because she is a classical one-upper. If you tell her about a vacation that you had and enjoyed, she'll tell you it's nothing compared to her last vacation. You're going through a bad time? Well, it's nothing compared to what she's going through and stuff like that. Since her only friend is Laura, I got to hang out with her a lot. And let me tell you something, I don't like her and I don't consider her a friend, but I am civil to her. Now, Laura has tried to integrate Dana to another group of friends of ours, and this has been going on for a few years now, but it is not going well. The breaking point was one night when we were drinking and a friend opened up about losing a beloved pet, and Dana responded by saying that it was nothing compared to when she lost a blouse her mother had given her last year. After that, some people just straight up wouldn't hang out with us if she was coming too. Now this all leads into the main issue. We're planning a week-long camping trip along with 2 more friends and their spouses, and of these friends, only one of them has met Dana. Laura thinks that this might be a good chance for Dana to meet new people, so she suggested that we invite her, which I was obviously against. I get tired just imagining a week with her, and I told her that exactly. She knows that I'm not a fan of hers, but is hoping I will help improve her social skills, but I just don't think our vacation should be her opportunity. We ended up fighting for a little bit, but it just didn't solve anything. Now, here's where I think I might be the jerk. I continue planning the trip, and every time Laura told me to invite Dana, I would just tell her that I'll do it once it's all set up. But here's the thing, I had no intention in doing so. Anyways, the trip is a few weeks away, and last Saturday the cat got out of the bag about me not wanting Dana to come along. Laura argues that being annoying is no reason to exclude her, and if she needs to improve her social skills, we should be helping her out. Now, I obviously disagree, but I have never seen Laura this angry, so I'm doubting myself. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, to be completely honest. Obviously, Laura is trying to be a good friend to Dana and is trying to find some kind of like friend group for them to connect with, but this Dana lady is clearly just not good at picking up on social cues. And trust me, I know the exact type of person that they are describing. Dana is one of those people that always one-ups whatever you say, and it's almost like you can never have anything when they
they are around. It is super obnoxious to deal with, and I don't blame you for not wanting this lady around during your vacation. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think Dana is reaping exactly what she has sowed, and the fact that she has no friends is literally not your fault in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to have a double wedding with my twin sister, all because I dislike her fiancé? Because right now she is devastated by my answer, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So ever since we were kids, my identical twin sister and I have wanted to have a double wedding. However, as we grew up, we realized that as much as we wanted it, it would be unlikely that we would both get engaged at around the same time. A couple of weeks ago, my boyfriend of 4 years proposed to me. Then, a few days ago, my sister's boyfriend, who knew how much we wanted a double wedding, also proposed to my sister. Well, my sister is over the moon and thinks that we'll have the wedding that we dreamed about as kids. However, I told her that the double wedding wasn't a good idea. I made multiple excuses, but she kept on badgering me for the real reason why. So I admitted that it was because I disliked her fiancé. They only started dating this year, yet she thinks that he's her soulmate. He's a high school dropout working a minimum wage job, and he has an 8-year-old daughter whose mother passed away a few years ago. He's also a convicted criminal who once spent 3 years in prison due to illegal substance possession. Most people his age are homeowners, while he can barely afford rent and has resorted to borrowing money from my sister multiple times. I told my sister that she was too young to be a stepmother, and if she married him, he would just use her for her money before he got bored of her. I said that I didn't want the best day of my life to be tainted by sharing it with some man who'd probably just divorce her after a year. She thinks that I'm acting stuck up and judgmental, but I just want the best for her. I still would love a double wedding, but I'd gladly sacrifice that dream if it meant saving my sister from a lifelong bad decision. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, for starters, I don't think anyone should have to live up to anything you say as a kid. When you're a kid, you have wishful expectations of what life will be, and sometimes, in my opinion, it's like a misguided expectation that you can never live up to. And in this regard, I think it's not a bad idea to put that to the side, because what your sister is kind of asking for right now is not reasonable. For starters, you don't like her boyfriend at all. You find him to be a very bad person, and you don't think this is someone that she should marry. And while you definitely do not have a say in who she can and cannot marry, on the other hand, you do have full control over your wedding. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. And if you don't want to have a wedding with this guy there, then in my opinion, you are fully within your rights to do exactly that. Am I the jerk for making my bridesmaid cry and storm off at my wedding day, all because she missed a text message stating that I needed help getting ready for my wedding? Because right now, I seriously feel really bad about the whole situation, and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I got married a few weeks ago and had 5 bridesmaids, with 3 of them being very close friends. Most of our wedding parties stayed at the venue with us, so they were with us the entire morning of the wedding. We hosted breakfast and communicated that everyone needed to be ready for photos by 1:00 p.m. Well, 11:30 rolls around and my makeup artist is late and nobody has started steaming or ironing their clothes. I start to stress out a bit while my maid of honor and I arrange my room for the getting ready photos. The wife of one of my husband's groomsmen, we'll call her Emily, that's not her real name, steps in and starts steaming my wedding dress and helping the groomsmen iron their suits. 30 minutes into this, I text my bridesmaid friends asking where they were and if they could possibly help Emily while my maid of honor and I try to track down the makeup artist. One of them came up and started helping out, but I get no response from 2 of them for about an hour, and my maid of honor eventually sees them lounging by the pool. Shortly after, one of those bridesmaids, who we will call Sarah, rushes into my room as I finally sit down for hair and makeup. She says sorry that she didn't see my text and asked if I still needed help with anything. I just say that it's okay, things are being taken care of now and not to worry. She then bursts into tears, saying I never communicated what I needed help with. Now, I have never gotten married before, so I had no idea so much needed to be done, and I communicated what I needed as soon as I figured that out. She told me that I can't expect her to read my mind, and then ran out of the room crying. So it's me, my maid of honor, my sister-in-law, and my mother-in-law who were in the room at the time, and we were all shocked. The other bridesmaid simply came into the room, apologized for seeing the text message late, and started helping, making sure that I had food to eat and coffee to drink. Now, I haven't asked Sarah to do anything for my wedding up until that morning. She even skipped out on my bachelorette party for a birthday party, which hurt my feelings a bit, but I communicated that I was just bummed out that she couldn't make it and moved on. Everyone in the room that day told told me to ignore her outburst, but I felt bad that she was so upset and I didn't want her to feel that way on my wedding day. I found her after she cooled off for a bit, and I apologized if I made her feel overwhelmed, and I would have communicated my expectations earlier if I knew what they were just a little bit sooner. She said she prides herself on being helpful, and I made her feel like she wasn't. This was the kicker because she disappeared after that and ended up not helping at all. I just said I was happy that she was there with me regardless, and she was in a bad mood for the rest of the evening, didn't speak to me, and didn't even congratulate my now husband and I during the event. She left early the next morning, and I texted her thanking her for being there with us and that I was grateful for her company, and she told me to just enjoy the rest of the week, and we have not spoken since. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? So while I don't think that you're the jerk in this scenario, like that would be completely unreasonable and there's no way you did anything wrong, I do, however, think it was very foolish of you to apologize to that lady, especially when you didn't do anything wrong. Like literally, this was her job. She was supposed to step up to the plate and be ready to help you out at your wedding. So in my opinion, for you to apologize to her, especially after her preteen outburst in the middle of your wedding, that in my opinion is insane and you definitely should not have done that. But more to the point, Sarah's behavior in this scenario is completely uncalled for. Like she literally made all of this about her. This is somehow your fault that you didn't communicate your needs at your wedding to her specifically. But in reality, she's just sitting there lounging by the pool on your wedding day. Like what is going on right now? That is so crazy to me. You would think if you're going to be a bridesmaid at someone's wedding, you would at least have the common decency of being ready to help out where you're needed. So no, of course you're not the jerk. Sarah's being a melodramatic loser right now, and any offense that she took is literally her own problem, and it is not something that you did in the slightest. My boyfriend's family lost their home in a fire and are now asking me to put my name on a mortgage loan so they can buy a new house. And I honestly would love to be helpful, but I'm not sure if this is too much to ask. And at this point, I don't know what to do. So I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 4 years, living together for about 2 years. And I'm just gonna cut to the chase. His family, namely his mom, dad, and sister, suffered a house fire in January, and they stayed with us in our 1-bedroom apartment for a couple of weeks until their insurance got them a hotel. And thankfully, at this point, they are in the hotel. His family also had 10 cats, and 9 of those cats are in the apartment with us currently. So it's me, him, and 9 cats right now. They pay for the food and litter, but I've bought them a cat tower and some toys. They've basically destroyed my couch, but I figured that they would, and it was a cheap couch. This past Sunday, they went to see a realtor to talk about buying a house. Where they lived was a place they rented for a decade, and the landlord was angry about the fire, so they don't want to go back there even when the house is fixed. My boyfriend was supposed to be the one on the loan because his parents aren't citizens and would have to pay a lot of money on the down payment. But since he has a social security number, he can get a regular rate. The problem is that he doesn't make enough on his own. If I went in on him for the loan, our combined income would be enough to qualify. If I go in on the loan, we could stay with his family in the house and even save for our own house later. We'd have more space, which would be great because I'm trying to start a business, and I wouldn't be living in the 1-bedroom with 9 cats. But it's also a 30-year mortgage loan. He has told me that whatever I decide to do won't affect our relationship, but I'm afraid this will for me. If I don't decide to go on the loan, his parents said they'll get a trailer and take the cats, but his sister will probably still end up living with us because her job is close to us and she doesn't drive. And I honestly feel like I'm losing it. I feel like no matter what I do, I'm losing something. I'm just so conflicted right now. I've asked the advice of my mom and some friends, and they think they're asking too much. But if I don't go in on the house, I'm still in this apartment that costs too much, and we're gonna add an extra person to our space. So I'm wondering, should I just let them put my name on the mortgage loan, or should I accept that his sister will be living with us? I hate to add any more elements of stress to their lives because they've already been through so much, but now it's leaking into my life a lot. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, I think it's a terrible idea to put your name down on that loan. Like seriously, what are you gaining out of this? You're putting your name on the line so that other people can have a house? Meanwhile, you gotta wait and save for another house later down the line? Like seriously, what is the problem here? Like that is not okay, and that seriously is not your problem. And I'm not trying to be insensitive about the house fire or anything like that, but these people were literally renting before the house fire, so there is no reason why they couldn't rent again after the house fire. Why do they suddenly want to buy a house that they can't afford? And also, in my opinion, it is incredibly toxic for them to expect that his sister is going to somehow move into your 1-bedroom apartment. Like if I was in your shoes, that would definitely not be happening. I don't care how close my apartment apartment is to their job. You're not living in my 1-bedroom apartment. We will literally be on top of each other, and that's just not gonna happen. So in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would be setting some serious boundaries. I would be telling them not only am I not gonna sign up for that loan, but also this sister is not gonna be living with us. That is unreasonable, and I'm not putting up with that. Not even mentioning the cats that are currently destroying your house. Because right now, the way they're treating you is completely unreasonable. And for them to literally expect you to put your financial future on the line just so they can buy a house instead of renting one, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. My entitled brother demands that I buy him a house and pay all of his bills for him just so I could take care of him and our awful mother, claiming that I have to do this all because we're family. And I'm seriously so annoyed and frustrated, I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So until 2 years ago, I had a perfect 800 credit score. I never missed a payment, and I lost my job for reporting my bosses for overlooking mistreatment of my female coworkers. For 2 years, I've struggled finding work because, as I found out a few months ago, the people I was reporting on were slandering me to potential employers, costing me a job, and using my MBA making $20 an hour in an office. My credit score is awful, and I'm coasting on fumes. And the worst part about this is that my family doesn't know and is running around telling everyone I refuse to help them just so they can keep a roof over their head. I'm near the point of being unable to buy food, and these jackwagons are telling people that I should buy them a place to live. Now, why would they do this? Well, my grandmother passed away of what I suspect was COVID. I worked with the public and caught it despite being vaccinated multiple times. So I wasn't going to be around a 60-plus-year-old woman with emphysema and risk getting her COVID. She was angry, but then she never really liked me. She only needed me. He and my mother in her final days wormed her way into the house, thinking they would in fact gain ownership of it if she died. Every time I ask what she passed away from, they just say that she was in the hospital and decided to just give up. Well, she passed away, and they are facing a ticking clock because the house is being inherited in a 6-way split. This doesn't bother me because I was told years ago I was getting nothing from her estate. I was told the house would go into a trust, and both my brothers and mother would be living there. My brother, who has spent his life bouncing from one multi-millionaire relative's couch and wallet to another, thinks that I should buy a house for him and my deranged mother, just so they would have a place to live. So the man who was given a house to live in when he finally decided to leave home at 25 thinks that the man who was thrown out the week after graduation and lived in low-income housing at 17 and who is too sick to take care of himself should buy him a house. This isn't the first time he said stuff like this, and it's surely not going to be the last, but it just infuriates me how twisted these people's logic is. I know this isn't the last time because I asked him several years ago what he will do when grandma passes away, his rich uncle who has cancer in remission loses his cancer battle, and our mother who is incapable of taking care of herself is all that he has. His actual reply to this, and I kid you not, was to say to me, "Well, I will come live with you because you have to take care of me, your family." But here's the thing, when it's me, family means no help, and it also means that I have to be self-sufficient. But when it's them, it means that help and handouts are mandatory. I mean, am I wrong to be angry about them and their behaviors? I swear, having to deal with all these people who tell so many lies and half-truths, all coming up to me and shaming me before I correct them, makes me want to give up and just stop going out. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your family, especially your brother, sounds incredibly entitled. Like this guy is quite literally surfing from one couch to the other. He is using anybody who has money, and he seriously is under the assumption that you're gonna help him out when everybody passes away. And this is all under the assumption that, oh yeah, you have to because we're family. And it's like, dude, if you were actually my family, then you would act like it and try to be self-sufficient instead of trying to squeeze money out of everybody around you. And I don't know about you, but when someone's like, ooh, you have to take care of me because we're family, chances are they're super toxic, and they are only saying that just to guilt trip you into basically taking on all of their problems. So truly, I hope you're able to find some distance from this brother because they sound absolutely obnoxious. And I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever want to deal with that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My dad's wife messaged me saying that I have wrecked her life since reuniting with my dad. And now I am so unsure of everything, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my parents got divorced when I was pretty young. My father had started seeing his current wife when he was still living with us. All my life, my mom raised me with her own money and my maternal grandparents' emotional support. Her support got me to a great place in life. I came from a small city in the Middle East, and now I'm studying at an Ivy League university. 2 months ago, I went to my country for spring break, and I met my dad after years. For reference, he cut contact with me when he married the woman he was seeing. He invited me to his house, which is my childhood home where he lives with his wife, and as hard as it was for me to go there due to the memories I had from my childhood, I decided to go anyways. I met the wife, and she was not friendly but also not rude. We had a very polite conversation, and she said that she bragged to her family about me attending Harvard. However, my dad kept telling me that his wife is really jealous of us, that she wanted a baby from him 6 months into the marriage, and that they fight regularly. So I just told him to let me know if I can help with anything. So I left the house. I came back to college, and it's been about a month. My dad and I text every single day, and he says he doesn't feel comfortable talking with me on the phone in front of his wife. Well, everything was normal until tonight. I received a text from his wife, and it was about 3 a.m. in my country. I have no idea how she even got my phone number, and she was saying all kinds of stuff to me. She said she is not sure if my mom sent me back into my father's life or if I came back on my own, but me coming back has ruined her great marriage with my dad. She said I have wrecked their home and that I want my parents to get back together, and if I do, I should tell her so she can divorce my dad. When she said this, I was genuinely shocked. My mom has her own life and frankly doesn't even care about my dad. Now, my dad did say some stuff to me where he was like, oh, I wish my marriage with your mom worked out, and that he regrets not trying harder and all this other stuff. But I never followed up since it was pointless and they both have their own lives. Well, I told her the same thing I wrote above, and that I don't understand how me contacting my dad has ruined her life. She says my dad is sad since I left and has gone completely crazy. She then said to me, don't tell your dad that I texted you, and don't make him crazier than he already is. Now, I don't know how I feel, but I am really heartbroken. I have truly been nothing but polite towards her, and I know her background. She has been married 4 times and 3 times to men who already had a wife, but she is very different from my dad. My dad has a PhD, and she did not finish high school since she got married at 16, while also having kids at 18 years old. Now, I'm not saying academic education is everything, but it just means that they are in very different worlds. She keeps texting me saying that there is no other explanation for their marriage to become so bad, especially after so many years. And she goes on to claim that the only reason it's going bad is because of my reunion with my dad. I just don't know what to do, and it sucks since I have a medical school interview tomorrow morning, and I need to be confident, but I really am emotional, and I have no idea what to do next. Honestly, I think you need to realize that you are not at fault here, and your dad's wife is probably the reason things are going south. Like, think about it for a second. How on earth could this possibly be your fault? Like, you reuniting with your dad doesn't suddenly make this giant rift between your dad and his wife. It really seems like she's projecting and trying to make mountains out of molehills, and obviously trying to find somebody to blame for her marriage falling apart. That is really not fair in my opinion, and I don't think you deserve that kind of treatment at all. I know if I was in your shoes, and this really depends on you, but I would show those text messages to my dad and be like, hey, what is going on here? And then maybe explain that you're just trying to rebuild a relationship with him, and that you're not trying to ruin his marriage or anything like that, because the way his wife is acting is really weird, and in my opinion, I would not put up with that for another second. Today, I messed up by getting my first bad review, and I really do think that I absolutely deserved it after what happened. And at this point, I'm kind of worried that I'm about to lose my job. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm gonna start off by saying that I know I'm obviously in the wrong in this, and I kind of deserved it. The idea of leaving a customer with a bad taste in their mouth genuinely upsets me, and I just wanted to come on here and share what happened. So I work at a Hooters sports bar, and we are encouraged to chat with our tables, bring in regulars, and get people to have a good time. As long as you're doing your job, you can hang out with your tables for a bit, but you have to find a balance. I'm working tonight and I'm kind of busy, and I have a regular that comes in that likes to talk and talk and talk. He will tip me very well, but when I say this guy's persistent, he really is. He will see me trying to make a getaway and try to reel me back in, and I'm honestly kind of a people pleaser, so it can be hard for me at times to just walk away. I haven't gone over to him in a while, and my tables are caught up, so I decided I'm in a good position to go over and talk to him again, and he just starts going on and on like he does, and it's it starts getting really deep. He's talking about his chronic illness and his sick mother, and I sit down with him in the booth. As a note, we are allowed to do this, but I shouldn't have done it. And I do this to try and be engaging and sympathetic. And trust me, it was intense. My section was the booths, and the server before me was still in the restaurant, but now had a different section. She still had the booth that was right across from us, and the table of people had been there for a few hours. I see one of them peeking their head over, like they were looking for something through the booth screen. But at this point, there was no way of getting out of the conversation, and I figured that they've been there a while, so they would be okay until she got back. I was in that booth for probably 10 to 15 minutes before we even kind of got close to a stopping point for the conversation. It's a crazy amount of time to be away from tables, I know. I remove myself and I'm stressing, and I beeline to my other tables and they're all happy, but are almost finished with their drinks and need plates removed from the table. It's kind of messed up, but my first priority was to get to the tables of my own, and I didn't even think about the fact that her table might have needed something in that moment. Walking back over, I realized that that booth had two guys sitting there, no coasters or anything. Before I even think about anything, my automatic reaction was to run up and greet them. I see that they are fixated on their computer and notebook and relax just a little bit, thinking they've been there for a few minutes and that it's okay that they are probably staying a while. For some reason at this point, I was thinking that the busser had cleaned off the old table from the old server's party and I had gotten a new one in the time I was catching up with my tables. I use the same introduction as I give everybody. I say my name and then I ask how they're doing. They said they are doing okay and that they just need waters. And then I see one of them scribbling away something on his notebook. I'm walking away and I'm thinking about the fact that I saw someone bobbing their head around in the booth and that they could have been there the entire time. They could have been sat while I was talking to him and I didn't notice. I mean, who knows? I run back over with the waters immediately and they're gone. And then I see a note on the table, and this is where I realize I really messed up. I take the note and I walk up to the host and I ask when she sat them. But before I say anything, she tells me that she's leaving. I realize that I don't think anyone even noticed what happened, although I definitely think she could have seen them leave. I read the note in the back and it says they were there for 20 minutes and that it's unacceptable how long they were unable to get any service in that amount of time, which I agree I definitely messed up and I feel really guilty. I was all caught up with a regular and then also catching up on my tables and I just didn't notice them. I then immediately knew to check reviews online and there it was. He goes pretty ham on me too. He added that I was flirting with a guy across from them the entire time and they didn't get any service. I have kind of a weird name, so thankfully he didn't catch it in my introduction, but I just wish they could have stayed. Like, I would have brought over a manager and made things right if they wanted. I think I have a semi-likable personality and I could have made their experience a little bit better. Now, here's the thing. I didn't tell anyone. They go crazy on us about getting good reviews, and I've seen a girl get let go for getting a bad one. They will talk about the bad ones for weeks. Our manager gets bonuses for having high review percentages on their shifts, and they will try to find out who it was, and I know the girls will say my name because a couple of them pointed out to me how long the regular was there for and how long I was talking to him. He stayed to talk long beyond I was cut, and the restaurant cleared out as well. I told them about the contents of our conversation and that it was hard to walk away. It's not really an excuse, but still, I think I might be toast, and I'm honestly worried about what's gonna happen next. Okay, I've gotta be completely honest with you. Staying and talking to a customer for 15 minutes is insane to me. Like, sure, you wanna be personable with them and help them feel comfortable and all that good stuff. I totally understand that, and I don't doubt that your intentions were good, but 15 minutes in a restaurant is a really long time. That is seriously way too long for a customer to wait, especially since they haven't even ordered. And I'm not even talking about like waiting for your food. That's like a whole different animal. Like, if I have to wait for my food to be done correctly, then I'm gonna wait. I'm personally pretty patient in that regard, so waiting for my food to be cooked and properly prepped doesn't really bother me. But for me to be sat down at a table and then no one shows up for over 15 minutes, that in my opinion would be completely unacceptable. Like, I can understand why they were upset and why they decided to walk out and leave a bad review. But on the other side of that, the customers very easily could have gone up to the host and been like, hey, what gives? Where's our server? And then they could have hunted you down and figured it out from there. So I think everybody kind of like missed the mark in this regard. And if they really wanted timely service, then they really should have have communicated and said literally anything. So hopefully you can keep your job. I think it would be very silly for you to lose it all because of one bad apple, especially when that bad apple could have spoken up if they really wanted to be served. An entitled representative on a customer service line demands that I pay for equipment that I didn't order that's valued at over $500,000. So I decided to maliciously comply, paying for this equipment for only a couple $1,000s, thus resulting in me getting the deal of a lifetime and him getting investigated for possible manager fraud. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at someone in my life. Here's what happened. So last year, I was ordering an upgrade for the server room at work. It was a large, expensive upgrade that cost over $500,000. Now, if you've ever had to call a manufacturer to order equipment at this amount, you may know that once you get a good reputation with a manufacturer, they tend to cut red tape for you to maintain a good working relationship with your company. I, in the past, have bought equipment for my personal use at home, and it takes forever to get a rep on the phone, and they often screw you on the deal. While I was making the order with a manufacturer, I inquired about getting personal equipment, just to see if it would be possible to make a separate order for myself with my own money. Now, the rep had no issue with it, and was happy to make the second order. He placed both orders and even gave me a company discount for my order. Now, I did make it perfectly clear that the second order was a personal order, and not in any way connected to the corporate account or order. He confirmed this, and the order was locked. A few months went by, and the equipment showed up in the loading dock at work, and everything was in order. However, my order never arrived at my house. I attempted to contact the manufacturer, but got put on hold for hours. I gave up for now and figured I would try again in a few days. The next morning, the equipment showed up, and it was an exact match for the equipment that was sent to my work. Now, keep in mind, the order I placed from my house was a blade server that was just over $6,000. This was not what I ordered. I went into panic mode as I can't afford this equipment, and when they bill me, I will be screwed. I checked my bank account and I found no charges yet. Now I'm really panicking as I now think they billed it to my company, effectively double charging them. And at this point, I expect I'm gonna be fired. When I returned to work after my weekend, I emailed billing and I got a copy of the invoice. Well, they didn't bill my company for the equipment sent to my house. Now I'm really confused. So at this point, I drop it. It is a pain to get them on the phone, and I can't call the corporate line when it's a personal order. A month later, I got an invoice in the mail with a late charge for failure to pay. So I think to myself, okay, I can finally get this fixed. I see that they want $6,000 plus a $250 charge for late fees. And I think to myself, okay, that's odd. I call the retention number and I got a representative. I gave her the account number and she told me she needed to transfer me to a manager due to the amount. The manager picks up the phone and I tried to explain that the bill is wrong and the equipment they sent wasn't what I ordered. And he immediately just cuts me off and says, "You will need to pay the invoice. You're in violation of the contract and we will sue you if you don't pay it immediately." I tried to explain the equipment issue, but again, he cut me off and demanded that I pay. So I told him I would take care of it then. I said, "Sorry for being such a pain. I will call my bank right away." I then confirmed the bill amount and the part order number from the equipment labels. He confirmed it and said, "See, there was no mistake." And as I was about to hang up, I know I heard him say in a smug tone to someone else that this is how you deal with jerks. Well, I called my bank and I got them to unblock the transaction. It was stopped for fraud alert. The amount was paid, and I am now the owner of a $500,000 server room in my basement. A few months later, I had to order some more connectors for the fiber lines, and I spoke to their representatives again. I inquired about buying a personal device again, since the last time went so well. Apparently, they can't do that anymore, since apparently they were going through a manager fraud investigation. And honestly, I've never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Wow, that is a massive mess up on the company side. Instead of getting this fixed and figured out, they just demanded that you pay $6,000 for something that's worth over $500,000. Like, I don't know much about servers or anything like that, but I'm willing to bet that this was probably a steal. So good for you for maliciously complying and paying for that server and getting back at that really rude representative, because I'm sure they went through a nightmare being investigated for possible fraud. Am I the jerk for being unable to retrieve a bracelet that a guest dropped in the pool that I'm a lifeguard at? Because after I was unable to find her bracelet, she had the audacity to call me lazy. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I work at a large pool in Florida that has an artificial waterfall that guests can go behind. Yesterday, while I was on duty, a woman came up to me and said that she lost a bracelet directly under the waterfall. I was annoyed since we tell people not to wear jewelry in the pool, but I said that I would try to grab it. Swimming under the waterfall is quite difficult because it is high pressure water. You can't really come up for air unless you swim past it, which is difficult if you're diving to the bottom because it's about 8 feet deep. Despite this, I attempt to dive down there with no goggles. And as you might expect, I can't find the bracelet. I came up for air and was instantly waterboarded by the waterfall. I decided to go at it again, and I still couldn't find it. After 2 attempts of diving down to 8 feet and holding my breath the whole time, I had had enough. I told the guest I couldn't find her bracelet. She then started ranting at me about how lazy this generation is and demanded to speak to my manager. I explained to her that we actually empty the pool every night because it's fed by a spring, and that I would check the pool for it tonight. Well, she wouldn't relent, so I got the manager and he explained the same thing and asked her to leave her number so we can call her if we find it. She then proceeded to get her belongings and leave. She didn't even return the key to the locker she rented, and she didn't leave her number either. We did end up finding her bracelet, but we don't have any way to get it back to her, so it's literally just sitting in lost and found. So honestly, am I the jerk here? Should I have tried harder to find it initially? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk here. That lady is insane for trying to make you do that over and over again, and then for her to call you lazy all because you couldn't find it. It's like, are you kidding me? Why did you bring a bracelet into the pool in the first place? That really should have been left with your stuff, and there was no reason for you to bring that into the water. It's also glaringly obvious that she does not care about your safety at all. Like, if she thinks you're being super lazy for not holding your breath for a long time, then she can get in the water and try and find it herself. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and that lady was completely out of line.
My entitled neighbors constantly make noise every single Friday night as they party until early hours into the morning. And after dealing with this for so many weeks, as well as calling security and the police, I finally made a complaint at the main office, only for them to turn it around and try to blame me for all the noise that was being made. But once I decided to move out, so did most of my neighbors in my apartment complex, causing them to lose well over $35,000 a month as a result. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was 16 years ago. I lived in these apartments going on 3 years, and I was happy there. I had wonderful neighbors. I was always respectful to my neighbors next to me and below me by being quiet in the evenings, and my neighbors deeply appreciated it. Then we had some new renters come in across the parking lot, this being the same complex, and about every Friday night, they would have some kind of party. I lived in Southern California, and most nights the air is calm, so sound traveled like an amphitheater. I also then had my youngest son, who was just a baby. From 11 o'clock p.m. until 3 o'clock in the morning, all you could hear was them talking. They'd be laughing and screaming like they were standing right next to your bed. And yes, the windows were closed. About the 4th weekend, I would call security. They would go talk to them with very little help, but next weekend it was the same thing over again. I finally went over and told them to quit as they were way too loud, but they just laughed and kept going with their noise. Even their next door neighbor stepped in and told them to be quiet, but finally we started calling the cops. The next rent payment, I went to the apartment office and complained as I made the payment, and the office responded by saying that I was the problem. Well, at this point, I was done. I started looking around and decided to buy a home, and the following week, I made an offer and it was accepted. The office staff told me that they were happy to see me go, as they claimed I was the problem on these party nights. Well, after 6 weeks of closing, I pack up and I move out, with my oldest son coming to help me out. As we were loading up, one of my neighbors who lived next to my apartment said that they envied me, as they too were tired of our partying neighbors. The neighbor next door to the party group yells out to me and said, "Good riddance." I just rolled my eyes, and the nice neighbor asked her what her problem was, as the only disturbance in the area was her neighbor, as they had all their parties all the time. Well, 2 months go by, and I drove by the apartments to find out that every single renter in my building and half from the building next to mine were all vacant. Everybody moved out because of the party group, and the apartment complex finally evicted the renters who were partying every single weekend. I guess losing one renter was okay, but 16 apartments vacant because of them was too much, and this was about $35,000 a month. I spoke with a couple of my old neighbors, and I found out when they gave their notice to end their lease, the apartment managers tried talking them into staying. They told them that they were done with the neighbors who partied all the time. Now, it did take them a few months to get new renters in their establishment, but it was probably especially hard after all the negative reviews that they got. And in the end, moving out was completely worth it. The funny thing is, every time I saw the office manager, she would tell me what a great tenant I was. Always paid my rent on time, my home was always clean, I never had a complaint from any other neighbor, and this was literally for 3 years. And I'm honestly wondering if the problem renters were like friends or family or something like that, because the best revenge was that when I moved out, so did everybody else, and they all said the same thing that I did. They're leaving because of the noise of that one apartment. Wow, that apartment complex and their managers are completely out of line. They seriously try to act like you were the problem with all this noise. Like, are these people deaf or something? There's no way that's coming from your apartment. You just happen to be the only person actually saying something about it, and somehow that makes you the bad guy? Like, what is going on right now? And I think I'm right there with the original poster. They had to have been like a friend or some family member or something like that, because no apartment complex I've ever lived in would ever put up with that for longer than like the occasional like one-off weekend. But outside of a very obvious holiday, there's no way anybody should ever have to put up with that. So I not only don't blame you for moving out, but I also don't blame you for complaining, because the noise these people were making was completely uncalled for, and you do not deserve to live like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled lazy coworker requests that I move his bike to the warehouse while also making sure that I don't get any dirt on the tires, as he wants to keep it new for as long as possible. So I decide to maliciously comply by putting it at the top of a very large shelf, completely out of his reach when he tried to retrieve it. Here's what happened. So I've worked at an outdoor retail store for a little over 2 years now. The employee turnover rate at my job is pretty high, with most only lasting a few months. And as such, I have become one of the more knowledgeable employees, and I work primarily in the bike shop. Now, the bike shop manager also happens to be a head bike tech, meaning he is often busy repairing and building bikes. He has taken a liking to me, and as such, I do most of the part ordering, repair check-ins, and restocking and merchandising of the department floor. One of the few employees who has been working longer than me bought himself a brand new fat bike last spring. He lives in a small apartment, and so he stores his bike at the shop, as the bike shop manager and the store owner allows it. However, it is meant to be stored in the warehouse and not on the shop floor itself. Well, one day we get a large order of bikes that we wanted to put on the floor. I went and asked this employee if he could move his bike to the warehouse, or if I could just do it for him. He told me, yes, you can bring it to the warehouse, but I don't want any dirt on my tires. It needs to stay shiny and clean for the winter. Also, please put it in a corner or something where it won't get dinged up and scratched. Well, I am a kind and accommodating coworker. However, I don't fancy having to carry this large bike the 500 feet or so over to the warehouse. So I decided that I'd make sure that no one would scratch his bike. In our warehouse, half of it is dedicated to backstock, and the other half has our paddle sports department. In the back stock side, half of that is large shelves that you would most likely see at Costco or other large grocery stores, and the other is bike racks for our stock that won't fit on the floor. The top of these shelves are usually left empty, as we don't have a forklift, and there usually isn't enough merchandise to facilitate needing that extra space. So this leaves about 20 feet open off the ground where my malicious compliance can take place. Very carefully, I climb the ladder to the top of the shelf, carrying his bike on my back. Once up there, I carefully tied it to the post that was left up there, and I stood it up on some cardboard boxes so that I wouldn't dirty any of the tires. I then climbed down and I moved the ladder. Then I continued my work and finished the merchandising. My bike shop owner manager has a great sense of humor, and so when he went to the warehouse to grab a bike in for repairs, he just about lost it when he saw what I had done with the bike. He came back into the store laughing his head off and agreed that it was a justly earned prank. My coworker, on the other hand, who owned the bike, did not find it quite as funny. He is shorter than me, so he could not reach high enough when he was on top of the ladder to get it down. When I left in the fall for school, it was still up there, and I imagine he will have to get another coworker to try and get it down. That's a really funny way of getting back at a coworker. You didn't damage his property or anything like that, but you definitely made things a lot harder when it comes to him getting his bike back. So the next time this guy brings his bike to work, hopefully he can be responsible and move his stuff where it needs to go, because otherwise it might end up in another place that he cannot reach. Today, I messed up by potentially losing my entire friend group, all because of a stupid mistake, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of context, I'm an 18-year-old male, and I've always been a person who doesn't go out much, and I can easily spend days and even weeks not talking to anyone regularly. When I was younger, I used to be very shy and quiet, to the point where people thought I was a mute. I'm more vocal now, and noticeably more confident, but I feel like a completely different person to myself as little as 2 years ago. I feel like I found my identity and all of the things that I enjoy in life. I have a past of not keeping in contact with school friends after we've separated, both in primary and secondary secondary school. I used to be good friends with quite a few people, and ever since we left, we haven't communicated once. I can understand if people want to move on, like a new chapter in their life, but I'm familiar with this feeling of losing people that I thought were once my good friends. So this brings me to about 7 months ago. I had been doing my A-levels for 2 years and was coming up to my final exams. During A-levels, I really got to know some people and was good friends with quite a large group of people. As the end of A-levels was coming up, I was reminded of losing friends and was certain that it wasn't going to happen again. They were very kind and supportive of me, and we all were pretty close as a friend group. Some of these people I had known for over 6 years all the way through high school. It was the last day of our exams, which was also my birthday. I had mentioned that it was my birthday several days beforehand, and one of them even put it in their calendar to remember. I go in, I do the exam, and afterwards I see my friends. There is no mention of my birthday or anything like that, and I'm honestly fine with that. A few hours pass by and I casually bring it up, and they say to me, "Oh, is it your birthday? I didn't realize." And we carry on as if nothing happened. Normally, I don't care much about my birthdays, but this did put a sour taste in my mouth. Well, after this, it was summer holiday, and I know we will all inevitably go to different universities, and we won't see much of each other. So I decided to try and spend a week off of any social media, namely Instagram, Twitter, or Reddit, just so I don't waste my weeks away endlessly scrolling. Well, a week turned into a month, then 3 months, and so on. I paid absolutely no attention to any social media, but wondered why literally no one had messaged me in that time. My friends have my WhatsApp and number, so they could have easily called me, but they didn't. Fast forward, and it's now about 5 months of no social media, and I'm about to go to university. I decide to go on Instagram because I would inevitably add some people from university, and when I go on, I see I have 9 message notifications. I think to myself, what happened? Why did they not show up? Suddenly, I was mentally freaking out because I've ghosted everyone that I know. I feel like a scumbag because my friends probably wanted to check up with me, but I completely ghosted them as if I disappeared off the face of the earth. I then check my settings on Instagram for notifications, and I see that they are turned off. I think to myself, wait, when did this happen? But suddenly it all comes back to me. I had turned off notifications on Instagram so that I could focus on my exams, and I just never turned them back on. So because of this idiotic move, I have potentially burned all bridges with my entire friend group. I still haven't replied to them purely because I feel so much guilt that I don't want to remind them that I wronged them so badly. One friend messaged me somewhat recently asking how university is going, so maybe I still have a chance of continuing to speak with them. I know I'm probably not going to see the majority of the people I knew ever again, since some have went to live in other countries, but I feel I should at least apologize for doing this. I feel like they wouldn't accept my reasoning. Am I overthinking this? If I just respond casually with a quick apology for not replying on time, I mean, will they forgive me at all? What should I do? Honestly, in my opinion, I think you might be overthinking this a little bit too much. If these people are your friends, they will welcome you back with open arms. If they hold a grudge or try to hold this over your head, all because of a silly mistake, in my opinion, would be so bad and would probably shed some light on if they really are good friends or not. So in my opinion, I would just message them and say, hey, sorry about that, and then just give a very quick, easy explanation as to what you've been up to the past 6 months. Because if they are your friends, then they really will be okay with you stepping back into their lives. Am I the jerk for digging in my heels and refusing to invite my estranged dad and his wife to my wedding? Because after the way they treated me growing up, I now literally don't want anything to do with them. And I'm seriously at such a crossroads and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old female getting married this year, and the wedding is going to be smaller. So those we want to invite know when the wedding will take place and are confirmed to be free. Invites will go out in the summer, but unofficially, the people who will be invited have been invited. This was because it was important for us to have those closest to us present, and we didn't want a hugely expensive wedding. This has become a problem because I did invite my paternal grandmother, and she has a relationship with my estranged father while I do not. Now, for a bit of background, when my brother and I were 4 years old, we lost our mom. Our mom's twin sister helped our dad out a lot after mom died, and we actually lived with her for 7 to 8 months while our dad was spiraling and losing control of himself. She was there for our first day of school. She fed us and clothed us and protected us a lot during the period we lived with her, and once dad pulled himself together and took us back, she was still the person taking care of us after school and on Saturdays or Sundays when our dad would work. She was essential to us. She and mom were orphans, so it was just her for the maternal side, and dad's side was not close by and did not play much of a role in those earlier childhood memories. But our Aunt did. Then my dad got engaged and life changed fast. My dad's wife did not want our aunt around anymore. She wanted to become the mom, and she did not feel like my aunt would make that easy on her. So my dad and his fiancé at the time moved us out of state, and we moved around a lot, so my aunt could not get any visitation rights to us. We did not get to see or speak to her at all after that. I know she fought for us. She did track us down a couple of times, and we moved again, and we missed her like crazy. And over the decade that followed, Dad tried to erase all traces of our aunt and mom and attempted to create a little nuclear family with the four of us. But we hated him and we hated her. And when we were teenagers, we tracked down our aunt. When we turned 18 years old, we moved out of our dad's house and ended all contact with him. Now, my grandmother was aware of all of this, and when we were kids, she was understanding and did attempt to advocate for us to see our aunt. But once my dad found out I was getting married through a person who actually isn't invited to the wedding, but knew that I was engaged, he talked to my grandmother and he told her how badly he and his wife want to come and how sad they are that they've been removed so completely from our lives. Now, my grandmother is saying that they should be invited, or at least my father, because he is still my father. I told her it would not happen and refused to compromise with just him. So she's unhappy, and she said I'm taking things too far and I'm doing what they did, only I know how harmful it can be long term. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You're definitely not the jerk here. Your grandmother does not know what she's talking about because she did not live through your childhood. Like, your dad literally tried to erase your aunt and your mom from your life and literally moved you around all over the place just to prevent you from seeing her in any kind of way. That is highly inappropriate and so uncalled for. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for making my wedding a child-free wedding, thus denying my nephew from attending my wedding? Because right now my sister is calling me a jerk, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. So I'm a 24-year-old female and I'm getting married in less than a month, and I want a child-free wedding. Now, I have always said this, and in the invitations it says that it is child-free. Now, I have been to weddings where there are children, and some have screamed during the ceremony and the reception. In fact, I was at one where the kid didn't want to wait for the cake to be cut, so he snuck up and grabbed a handful. And trust me when I say this, the bride was horrified. Well, my sister has a 5-year-old, and she said she was happy to have some free time. Her boyfriend was going to stay behind the day of the wedding to be there with my nephew. I guess his friends rented out a cabin somewhere the week of my wedding, and he wants to go, so he doesn't want to, in his words, babysit that night. Now, I love my nephew a lot, but when things aren't about him, he will do anything to make it about him. She asked if I can make an exception and that she will keep him quiet, but I just don't trust her on this situation because my grandmother had her 80th birthday recently, and my sister made the same promise to our family that she would keep him calm. Well, he broke away from her and blew out our grandmother's candles and pushed the cake off when my dad tried to redirect him. She said she won't be able to find someone to watch him, and I said I would help her find someone, and she said she doesn't trust him with anyone. So I told her she needs to tell her boyfriend that it's not babysitting, and he said he would be there for her and her son during this night. Now, the venue has open water and a lot of open field. I also don't want him to get hurt because he loves to run around, and he always gets in trouble, and she rarely stops him. So I told her I'm sorry, but I can't. Well, she called me a jerk for inviting our cousin who turned 18 in December, and I told her she is an adult, and she can watch and take care of herself during the event. There will also be alcohol and other activities later in the night, and I don't want a child around for that. Our cousin is even leaving before we do other stuff. She'll only be at the reception for an hour or two. She says that she barely turned 18, and that I'm your sister and you can't even do this for me. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Yeah, based on the way you've described your nephew, I don't blame you for not inviting them. Like, this kid pushed a birthday cake off the table and blew out the candles at their grandmother's birthday party. And in my opinion, that is a massive red flag that this kid will absolutely do the same thing at your wedding. Am I the jerk for asking my wife to earn a stable income? Because right now, I feel like we're sinking financially. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been married to my wife for 15 years. We have 3 kids, ages 9, 11, and 14. Our dating period was a rapid 6 months before we were married, although we knew each other as friends for much longer. Her family communicated to me that we should waste no time, and she did as well. So I got the memo, and I eagerly played the part of Romeo. And trust me when I say this, it was easy. I was infatuated with my wife's beauty. I still think she looks physically stunning, and I like that she was a reader. In retrospect, I think I overlooked our values not aligning, but that's on me. Enamored as I was, I told her that I agreed that I would be the breadwinner and that she would be a stay-at-home mom, and I honestly thought I could do it. We were 29 years old and I was completing my PhD degree. I took on extra teaching gigs and supported us financially as we lived in a small apartment. She wrote novels and more kids arrived. I finished my degree and found a stable career at which I currently work. I've been solely supporting a family of 5 for at least 15 years, and I wouldn't mind doing it if the economy wasn't so bad. We bought a new place 2 years ago, and with inflation and my variable mortgage, I am losing sleep at night thinking where I can cut some of our expenditures and how we can stretch our budget. I make decent money, but we live in an expensive city, and I feel like our boat is taking on water, and I am asking my wife to help me get some of this water out. We make ends meet living paycheck to paycheck, but an emergency would be disastrous. My wife works hard, but she works hard at jobs that she likes. She is a stay-at-home mom. Our youngest is nonverbal autistic, but goes to school full-time. She writes novels that bring home maybe a couple $100 a year, and she has recently started taking on dancing gigs. She is on a dance team that makes about $200 to $300 a month. She would earn more money and work less if she just used her teaching degree, which she is not using. She brings in practically nothing and expects me to man up and get extra teaching gigs. I'm doing that, but I'm also burning out, and I'm now wondering if I'm the jerk for asking my wife to use her skills and bring in more reliable income. She says being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job and that I made a promise to her before we got married. She writes novels and calls this a career, which I admire, but I think it's also selfish. She earns next to nothing and would earn more if she just worked once a week a full-day shift, which I could easily accommodate by taking on extra duties on days I don't work. I can't even bring this up with her, or else she's gonna accuse me of not appreciating or respecting her. Her line right now is that being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job, and I agree that it definitely is work, but I already do all the groceries, drop the kids off at school, make some of the meals, and then some. I don't mind taking on more if she would just contribute something to the family's financial well-being. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your wife's being very selfish, and she's not looking at what's happening right now. Like, she's really holding it over your head when she's saying, oh, 15 years ago you said you would take care of the family. And it's like, yeah, but that was 15 years ago. Now we've got inflation and all this other stuff going on. Things have definitely changed since then. And in my opinion, that's just a really toxic excuse for her to stay at home and still do her same thing. And sure, writing novels and being a part of a dance team is not bad in and of itself, but picking up a well-paying job at a time like this really seems like the best move. And in my opinion, I don't think you're in the wrong for asking her to step up. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.